minutes early. Hi, Ludger.
You get the award, Luger,
Yep.
for being the one and only.
Keep an eye on the post because your check will be with you soon.
By the time all the service fees get deducted, it's
may not amount to much.
Well,
by the time
what we don't actually reduce the amount. We just cut bits off the check until it's a very, very small piece of paper.
Well, actually, he ends up owing us money. Is what happens.
You can't possibly cash it in at all.
Yeah.
We made sure of that.
And this is Stephen Ivy with us today.
Greetings.
Tim Van Ram from the jungle. He's in the jungle in Ecuador.
Oh, wow.
He is.
He's not back yet, Tim? Wow.
You should see the place he's staying. It's fantastic. Tanya, hi. Mike
I've heard
Kuipers.
that there was some unrest in Ecuador.
Greg Peterson, hello.
Local police are cracking down on the drug cartels or something.
Well, I'm sure they're cracking down on Tim then.
Quick, hide your drugs, Tim.
Yeah, Tim. Wondering.
Well, some of those photos you posted on Facebook are amazing. The place in the jungle.
Is that the place that has all the tapeworms?
I don't know. Is Tim losing weight?
Have you got a tapeworm yet?
Oh,
Tim?
he's heading to Atlanta at midnight on Delta 916.
All
I
right.
will not be there to greet you.
The midnight plane to Georgia.
Oh, very good.
Clever, Liz. Very clever. There's Greg Peterson.
Yeah, saw Greg.
We got you in
Tanya,
in
Mike
the
K.
feedback.
The mayor of APG, Mike Kuipers.
And there's Miss Tanya, as you said.
I wonder if that Jennifer's going to show up. She should be here.
Yeah, right.
Oh, hasn't she lost her job?
Well, yeah, but now she's got time for APG. That's what she said. She's going to become full-time APG listener.
All right, excellent. Wow, that's a profession. I didn't know.
Doesn't pay very well.
It is now.
Wouldn't have thought so.
She's putting it on her resume. That's not a great idea, Jen. No, it's not going to get you a job.
Yeah, I would not mention APG
No.
if I were you.
You got me a job.
Huh?
I'm not sure that APG did that. I think you did that all on your own, Steve.
Yeah.
No. Nick. Yes.
What?
Take credit. Jeff's saying take credit.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all us.
Hello?
In fact, it was all
Hiring?
me. I did it all.
APG here. We want to recommend Stephen Ivy.
Jeff,
Make it happen.
you got to head down to the ATL early tomorrow morning because he's getting on a plane, Tim, to San Francisco at 8:15. So,
Sorry, Tim.
sorry, Tim.
I just looked at my schedule. Ugh, it's just too tight. I can't do it.
Have you got like a 4 a.m. mass to sing at or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be up pretty early as well because I got to head off. Yeah.
Head off to your talk.
Pick up the sick puppy
Oh.
and take her to our vets
The
again.
local one.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
What a mess.
Yeah.
All right. So we're not really waiting for anybody else, right?
No, we can start
Okay,
anytime.
let me do some sound here just to make sure we got everything good.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The
Sounds
view
good.
from our side of the cockpit door.
Okay, and that one, and we got this one, and we got this one, and that should do it.
Are we actually going to start like right around 2 o'clock?
Wow.
Wowzer.
That's going to be
Yep.
a
Let's
world
do
record
it.
for us. Okay. Shall we do
Yeah.
that?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Let me go.
Okay,
here
just
to
a minute.
this.
I got to put this up. Don't I have to put that up first?
Yeah, and then go full screen, please.
Yeah, just a minute. There we go.
All right, and now I'm going to play the little countdown thing. Here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG.
It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 606.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 15th of February, 2024.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Picture light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a fiery plane crash in Florida and a firefighting helicopter dumps sewage on homes in Australia. Also ahead, more news, your feedback on today's plane tale, Seeing a Void. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 606 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter, currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in
New York City!
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a former U.S. Air Force undergraduate pilot training instructor, Starlifter pilot, retired 727-717, and Mad Dog captain for Delta Airlines. And joining me from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire,
professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways, it's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. It's great to be here on APG 606. Now, did you know Virginia State Route 606 goes around Washington Dulles Airport? It used to be a regular haunt of mine and the home of the Udvar-Hazy Center.
Wow. I did not know that. You learned so
I'm
much
full
here
of it.
on the APG. Okay. Well, also joining us from his home studio in West Georgia, current charter pilot, former 121 first officer, and survey pilot, it's Stephen Ivey.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody. Thanks for letting me join y'all this afternoon.
It's our pleasure, Stephen.
Yeah, brilliant.
Also, last but not least, from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer, it's Liz Piper.
Hi, everybody. It's a stereotypically snowy day here in Toronto.
About time,
wow.
right?
I know.
Yeah,
We've
have
had
you
a
been shoveling your snow off the walkway?
well, not yet. I will later, but we've had a dearth of snow, so we're catching up.
Dirty snow.
Speaking
All
of
right,
dirts
everybody.
and
Have a good
dirges,
show.
let's move on with this show, and we'll start off with some aviation news.
stand by for news.
All right, we're going to start off with this first item. Let me set up some video, get ready to play that. And let's see here. This is from, yeah, well, that's right. Good point. Liz is mentioning that during our last show, toward the end actually, while we were recording, iHaul Boxes in our live audience said, hey, there's something happening down in Naples, Florida right now. And we broke in with some breaking news and we said, you know, we don't know much about this, but we're going to cover it on our next episode. So here, that's true. Thank you, Liz. So here we are. We're discussing the show. We're not discussing the show. We're discussing this news item, this tragedy down in Naples. And let's start off with, well, let's see. I guess we should set it up a little bit. It involves a Bombardier Challenger 604, a November 823 Kilo Delta, operated by Hoppajet, a charter outfit. And they started off the day in Pompano Beach or something like that,
I think
Florida?
Fort Lauderdale, executive.
Fort Lauderdale, okay.
Yeah.
And then they went up to Columbus, Ohio, the University of Ohio.
The Ohio State University Airport.
Oh, the Ohio State University Airport. And then they flew from there down to Naples. Almost made it, but not quite, sadly. We have some air traffic control audio that we'd like to play. So let me cue that up right now and hit this right here.
Papa Jet 823 is with you on a right downwind for a 5-mile final, runway 23.
I'm Jet 823, roger, make the right turn back towards the airport, at least one departure ahead, Challenger Jet, runway 23, clear to land, wind 22012, gust 16.
All right, Challenger Jet departing, we're turning back towards the airport and clear to land, runway 23, Papa Jet 823.
Taxi 574, runway 23, turn right heading 270, clear for takeoff, traffic 3-mile final, Challenger Jet.
Question 574. Okay, Challenger, Papa Jet 823, lost both engines, emergency. I'm making an emergency landing.
Service, got the emergency, clear to land, runway 23, is that Papa Jet 823?
We're clear to land, but we're not going to make the runway. We've lost both engines.
There's some dash cam video.
574 to hold short. Tower Shadow 5, where's that?
Shadow 5, there are two northwest right over I-75. Papa Jet 823,
Everybody stand by. There's an alert 3 in progress. Everybody stand by.
Tower Shadow 5, rescue helicopter, request to go to the scene.
Shadow 5, proceed direct as requested. Taxi 574, Naples Tower, runway 23, turn right heading 270. Clear for takeoff.
Inflection 574. Departure heading is 270, clear for takeoff, runway 23.
Naples Tower, 71 Foxtrot Charlie, we've been orbiting out here to the east, wait instructions.
That's 71 Foxtrot Charlie, you can continue inbound for midfield left downwind of runway 23.
Midfield left downwind 23, 71 Foxtrot Charlie.
Okay, they're continuing to try to manage the traffic going in and out of the Naples Executive Airport. I believe that's the name of it. And we saw some dash cam video from a trucker, and it was pretty impressive footage there. We see the Challenger coming down for the last few seconds of its flight, and it looks like if they were just able to, get the vector more aligned with the runway, they may have actually had a chance to make it. But you're trying to land on a interstate highway with a lot of traffic, and it's just luck, I think, to make it in this kind of a situation. But anyway, so the thing that's perplexing about this, wow, you don't hear very often instances of airplanes, twin engine airplanes, losing both engines at the same time. That is very, very unusual. And I was thinking, we should probably have somebody on the show who has some experience flying this type of an airplane. You flew the commercial version, Stephen?
Yeah, that's right. I flew the CRJ, which is a stretched version of the 604 series Challenger. So the actual systems and stuff are very similar to the plane here. And I'll be honest, I've talked to a couple different guys, and we're all scratching our heads what might have happened. Most jet engines or any jet aircraft, your main source of moving fuel is through motive flows. So, and then your backups, your two, your engine-driven pumps like that. I recall when I was on the CRJ, you could actually start your engines without having the fuel pumps engaged, just based on rotation. It would run just fine without them. So I'm not too sure what might have caused this. A lot of the people I've been discussing it with seem to think it might have been a fuel contamination issue, but I mean, we don't know that yet. And I mean, I don't know really what else it could have been to have caused both engines to go out that low to the ground and everything.
Juan Brown on the Bloccalirio channel was talking about the fuel system, and it's kind of an unusual setup where they have a, what is it called, a collector box or something
Yeah,
like
you
that,
have a
where
collector tank inside
collector
that
tank.
is fed from both wings into the collector tank, and then it draws from the collector tank to feed both engines.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I did neglect to mention that there were 5 people on board the aircraft, and the 2 pilots passed away. They died in the incident, and the 2 passengers and flight attendant that was on board of this aircraft managed to escape without injury. And I'm going to try to play this, Liz, if you don't mind. I have some video here that shows the passengers leaving the aircraft shortly after it came to a stop.
Is there anybody else in there?
Pilots, our pilots.
Are they alive?
We haven't, I don't know.
I need to come board
I don't have my phone.
Okay, so that is some eyewitness footage and querying about if there was anybody else on board the aircraft. And right, yes, that's what I said. So the interesting thing about this, I was reading on one of the pilot forums. They said that, or maybe it was somewhere else, but they said that it was quite almost a miracle, really. I mean, it was a good thing that the flight attendant was there to help guide these 2 passengers. And apparently, what she did was, or what they did, with her help, they went back through the aft lavatory, and then there's a door on the other side, the aft side of the lavatory, where they can go into the baggage area, the baggage compartment. And then apparently there's you can go ahead, throw that one up.
Yeah,
Liz.
I was just gonna say, I don't know about that particular one, but obviously it is. But the 300 series that I flew for a little while, you can access the cargo compartment from inside the cabin, and there's an interior handle where you can open and close the cargo door, and in this case use it as an exit, which is what they did, which is a lot
Right.
lower to the ground in that case, because if you look at the way the aircraft came to rest, even if you opening the main cabin door, it would probably still be off the ground a pretty good bit.
So I would, if you'll load up your slides, Liz. Liz swiped. She did a side swipe. Okay, so we're gonna wait for Liz to get back in sync with us here. No, I'd like you to do the slide where the door, the baggage compartment door. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not the actual accident aircraft, but it's one just like it. And the reason why I chose this image was that it was a good enough image that you could see where that external door is for the baggage compartment. It looked, Stephen, I don't know if you know that much about the private versions of the 604, but it looks like some of them don't have this door. But I could be wrong about that, or maybe it's just painted so well that it just disappears.
They've all got that cargo door, but it's really hard to spot with the way the engine sets and everything. If you're just walking by on the ramp, you probably wouldn't notice it.
Okay, yeah, it's right below the left engine nacelle. And as I was saying, or somebody was saying that I was reading, that it was really great because that flight attendant knew that that was a way to get out of the aircraft in an emergency. And if it had not been for that, they probably would have perished as well.
Yeah, no,
That's
that
what
was
I'm
a
guessing.
really smart thing to think of and use, and very quick thinking by her.
Greg Peterson in our live audience says, if it was fuel contamination, wouldn't something have shown up sooner since they had flown all the way from Columbus, Ohio?
Well, I mean, a good example of that would have been that British Airways 777 that made it a couple 100 yards off of the runway at Heathrow that had the ice contamination issue. I mean, it happened to them just at the end too. So,
Let's see. IHL Boxes says cars just continuing like doesn't seem like anyone needs help here. Yeah, well, you know what? IHL Boxes, people have things to do. Come on, you can't let something like this
Just keep
bother you.
going. Contaminate all the debris. It's fine.
That was not the Super Stew is asking if that was the airport perimeter fence, and no, they were about 2.5, 3 miles or so off the extended center line of the aircraft. Now there were some in the professional pilots rumors forum. Somebody was saying kind of looked like he was shooting for a golf course that was just on the other side of that sound barrier wall, and then finally realized it probably wasn't going to make it over that wall, and then just kind of jinked and tried to land on the freeway. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, because I did look at that particular golf course, and it's not like it was a huge area of open spaces. I mean, there were a couple.
I'm just looking at it on Google Maps. There's actually a bunch of houses right there, which is probably what he saw, and probably what he was like, maybe I shouldn't put it down there.
Yeah, could be. It's really hard to know. Sadly,
Yep.
we're not going to know because he or both of them passed away. There were two older pilots, yes. I think one in the 50s and one in about the same age I am, who was a former airline. Thank you, Liz. She goes, that's old. Former airline pilot, and apparently well-regarded former airline pilot. And yeah, a lot of housing on that course. Yeah, thank you, IHL. So we have the cause. We're not sure. We're hoping that the preliminary report will come out soon, and when it does, we'll cover it here on the show and see what they've come up with as far as the cause of the two engines. Because it doesn't seem to be any concern whatsoever, at least in their voices. There's no concern about asking for priority handling. It was all of a sudden, hey, you're cleared to land. Turn your 5-mile base, and oh yeah, we're not going to make it. We've lost both engines.
Yeah, that they were extremely calm, and there wasn't anything chiming in the background either that would have
that's
indicated anything major was wrong.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, with the CRJ, you get a chime that's a caution message for low fuel, but they might have, that's just one thing that could have been. If it's something more severe, there would have been something else going on in the background, probably.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Stephen, a question, if I may. The low fuel warning, do you know what tank level generates it? And is there a separate warning for low collector box fuel? Because, have you any idea how big that collector box is? How much fuel it holds?
I used to know, Nick. I know for the CRJ 200, your min fuel call was, I want to say, 1,500 pounds total left, and then your emergency fuel left was 1,000. So, and then that low, I want to say that gave you, probably about 30 minutes roughly of flying left if you were down to that low of a state. So
yeah, I'm just wondering if they had a low fuel warning, how much flying time they had left, and if there was a fuel feed problem and they were just using the collector box fuel, would they have had a warning as that depleted?
I don't know.
I don't recall there being a cast message for your collector tank being low, but you had a way to cross feed the fuel in the event something happened. There's also a gravity feed option that gravity feeds the fuel as well. So if they did lose a fuel pump, they could do the gravity feed. The only caveat with that is, though, you can't use it for takeoff and landing because it sloshes, you're sloshing around the fuel so much down low, turning and everything, it can cause you to lose, shift everything to one side, and you don't want that. So
yeah,
that's about the only thing I can think of with that.
Super Stew in our audience. He or she is a new one. I haven't seen them before in our live audience. They would be fully configured at that point of the failure, right? So the aircraft would drop like a brick, I'm assuming. And
downwind of Naples, I usually have my first notch of flaps in, but I'm not putting everything else in until I'm turning base. And they
Yeah.
were about 5 miles out. So they probably at least had their first notch in, which is probably 8 degrees of flaps on the 604. So, but now if you look at the picture of the crash, they did have the gear down. It looked like they had the flaps all the way out. So yeah, they're going to come down pretty quick.
It was odd, the calmness in the pilots, whoever was communicating on the radio, their voice. I mean, how do you interpret that? Was like, okay, I'm not surprised that both engines have failed. It's almost like the sound of resignation that, oh yeah, we were kind of expecting this was going to happen. But I don't know. I mean, if it were something that they thought they were going to be completely exhausted of fuel, you would have thought that they would have requested, vectors direct to the airport and declared an emergency or something. The other thing I want to mention is that one of the eyewitnesses said that when they approached the jet on the highway, that the overwhelming smell of jet fuel was there, and also the fact that there was a fireball that's suggesting that there may have been some fuel left in the
Yeah,
tanks.
I agree. There was probably fuel on the aircraft. That evidence we can see in the pictures, but it may not have been getting to the engines,
Right.
which is kind of my question about the collector box. If that's where the engine is the final collector box that feeds both engines, perhaps there was some kind of a fault that was preventing the collector box from filling properly.
Mm-hmm. According to IHAL boxes, the collector tanks are considered part of the main tank system.
Yeah,
main tanks each hold 4,800 pounds. So,
okay.
I don't know. I think a lot of these questions that we have will be answered, hopefully, in that preliminary report. So I guess we'll just have to hang on and find out what the National Transportation Safety Board determines. And they usually get the preliminaries out pretty quickly. And it's only been about a week since this occurred. So, or not quite a week, I guess. It was Friday, wasn't it? Last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just almost a week
All
ago.
right. Okay. Well, I know that you will be talking about this probably for some time. So let's go ahead and move on to this next item that happened in Africa. This is from the Aviation Herald. An African Express Airways McDonnell Douglas MD-82, a Mad Dog, registration 5 Yankee Alpha X-Ray Lima, performing a flight from Juba to Malakal. I have no idea if I pronounced that right, but we're just going to say that I did so I can ring the bell. There we go. Touchdown short of runway 4 and suffered the collapse of the main gear. The aircraft came to a stop on the runway on nose gear and belly of fuselage and was disabled. The aircraft was evacuated. There are no reports of injuries. So here are a couple of images that Liz is showing, and
oh dear, a Mad Dog gets put down.
I know, it's sad. It really is. I really don't want to look at these pictures because they're just so depressing. But I didn't realize, actually, I was telling Liz, I said, don't show that last slide until I tell you to, but apparently right there in the narrative, they say, yeah, to hit the end of the runway. So go ahead, put it up there. There you go. That's what happened. Like just
Ouch.
a tad bit short and hit pretty hard. That's a pretty good lip that goes from the surrounding terrain to the runway surface. And that they really pranged that right main gear. I think it was right main. Well, one of the main gear. No, I never did that. I mean, I pranged it a couple of times, but not like that.
Love it.
Yeah, I never collapsed the gear. That's one of those things I can be proud to say. Yeah. Yeah, I did not. Yeah, Mike Carroll's is a liar.
Pants on fire.
Anything really to say other than oopsie?
No.
You got to duck under sometimes, to try to get more usable runway to stop. But you have to make sure you don't cut too short.
Or catch the lights on the end of the runway either.
Right. That's never.
Well,
never
in the military, we used to pride ourselves for touching down on the numbers, or the piano keys, because you often needed full length. But no, There's not much difference between the beginning of the Payanagis and where he touched down, but he ought to have known better. Yeah.
Yeah, Liz says it's a good thing there wasn't a plane spotter standing there. Yeah, that would have
Better get some good pictures.
Yeah, it would have been a very good, really good pictures. Well, even if they didn't survive, Liz, they'd still be good pictures, you know? Yeah, as long as the camera kept running. Okay, let's move on to this next one from NBC Bay Area. Oh, wait, no, Stephen wants to say one more thing about this man dog, I think.
Well, no, actually, it was back to the last one about
okay, go ahead.
challenge, because I was just trying to refresh my brain, and we were talking about this collector tanks. There's actually two collector tanks, and I'm just looking at the schematic. There's also several different check valves that feed that tank and everything, and I'm just going down this thing. I wonder if one of those check valves may have closed on them, and then they weren't able to get the cross feed open in time to continue feeding the engines, because I don't think you're going to be able to restart one of them that low. Because most business jet operators don't run the APU below after they've taken off, because they're afraid of a fire starting and you're not able to put out the fire on the APU, so they don't restart it. Unlike the operator I worked for, we would start our APU on the CRJ below 15,000 feet for air conditioning purposes. So if that was the case, you would have been able to start one back up because you have another source to start the engine back up for bleed air. So just a thought there with that, but yeah.
Okay.
Didn't mean to go back to that, but I just wanted to point that out.
No, that's good. Yeah, if you think of anything at any point, just throw it in there. You know how professional we are here. We
absolutely only the best here.
Only the best. Well, yes, Liz, we are. No, I'm saying it with sarcasm. Okay, let's see. Let's continue this with NBCBayArea.com. A man arrested after a stolen plane lands on beach. I'm thinking the pilot, the guy that's probably at the controls, actually landed on the beach, not the airplane. But he was in the airplane. Half Moon Bay, near Half Moon. Oh, it says Half Moon Bay. I think it means near Half Moon Bay. This was sent in to us by John Chiala, and he says, crazy story out of Palo Alto. A Florida man, figured, right? Has been arrested. Florida man has been arrested after he was accused of stealing a small plane Thursday, ditching it near. No evidence of that. Ditching it on a beach near Half Moon Bay and walking away, authorities say. A witness told authorities that the pilot left after landing the small plane at Poplar Beach at about 5 p.m., the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office said. The plane remained in the area Thursday night while crews worked on how to remove it from the area. Ryan Gross said she was walking on the beach with her dad and dog when she noticed a plane flying low. Then it went that way towards Mavericks, and then it came back around down the beach. It was flying really low. It landed, sort of, and the tail started to nose over and plunged into the sand. He hopped out, and he said he ran out of gas, and he walked off. Moments later, he was taken into custody by deputies of the San Mateo Police, or the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. Anyway, I do have a little bit of video that I can play, just a little snippet of the scene at the beach. So let me there. Yeah, I think that is Stefan. No, that's not Stetson. Yeah, so there's the sheriff's little beach buggy thing, and there's that Citabria. Beautiful little Citabria, 446 Alpha Charlie, which was over at the Palo Alto airport. And so this guy flew it west and headed over toward Half Moon Bay. Beautiful beach. And but apparently, according to him, ran out of fuel and had to land it on the beach.
How long did they say how long he was joy flying around, or
no, he turned off or did not turn on the transponder or ADS-B. So nobody could
Nobody knows
track
what he was
him, so
doing.
nobody
Okay.
really knows. Yeah.
Well, that's even more interesting.
Yep. That's all I have on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, for sending that in. Okay. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Let's continue with this. This is from usnews.com. I guess it's US News and World Report, I'm guessing. Washington, Reuters. Actually, this is Reuters. A U.S. Senate committee on Thursday voted on legislation to boost safety inspector and air traffic controller staffing, but declined to endorse raising the airline pilot retirement age to 67 from 65. The U.S. House of Representatives in July, this is kind of what I suspected would happen, by the way. The U.S. House of Representatives in July voted 351 to 69 on a sweeping bill to reauthorize the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, that would hike the mandatory pilot retirement age to 67. The Senate Commerce Committee voted 14 to 13 to reject the retirement age hike after the FAA said earlier this week it would prefer additional research was conducted before Congress raised the age. And it also notes here in the article, current international rules would still prevent pilots older than 65 from flying in most countries outside the United States. So it wouldn't be very practical unless they somehow changed that rule. And no, Liz, I'm not disappointed at all that it did not pass, because I would not have put my hand up and said, hey, I'm not 67 yet, I'm coming back. Nope. But just think about it. Most of the pilots in my age range were flying the heavy metal and flying the international long haul routes to foreign countries, international destinations. And as I just mentioned here, they haven't changed the age requirement.
They have not.
So it would mean a lot of retraining, most likely, and displacing people who may have nice, seniority on the domestic kind of flying. To be pushed down. There'd be a lot of unhappy people if this actually were passed. I'm guessing.
Well, in the charter world, we don't have a age you have to retire by. Now, there's one operator here in the U.S. They require people to retire by, I believe it's 70 now.
Yeah, that was just recently, I think.
Yeah, that was right before Christmas. And my company, we do a lot of international flying, and it's kind of the same thing. The senior guys are on the planes that fly the longer international stuff, and they're not able to go to like Europe anymore and act as a PIC. But now what we've started doing, you can pair them up with a more younger captain as a PIC, and then they can still work. They just can't exercise their duty as a PIC. They're just technically a first officer. Same thing. Mexico's been cracking down on this a good bit too. In certain places, and we just do the same thing. That you'll have a younger PIC, and the older guy will act as an FO, and that's how we've been getting around that type of thing. So
okay, so it would then. Well, I'm not sure if it's a little bit different situation in the airlines, though, right?
That's you can't. You can't do that.
In your world. Your pay is not going to change, right? Those guys that are acting as first officer would probably still get paid whatever they were getting paid, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. In the airline world, I'm not sure that would work.
Yeah, that's not going to fly.
Yeah. So interesting. But it could be in the future that they may do some studies and they say, you know what, I think we are going to do that. And then perhaps internationally, ICAO or whatever, and some of these other countries will say, okay, we'll bump ours up too.
No, even if you increase the age, I mean, are people going to want to work the age 67? Were you going to work the age 67 if they bumped it up?
No.
Exactly. So what difference does it make? I mean,
but there are, you know what, Stephen, though, there are a lot of, according to the people that work at the chief pilot office in Atlanta, there were a lot of guys, mostly guys, that were kind of pissed off because they didn't want to stop flying, and of course they don't have to stop flying. They could fly for outfits like yours, Stephen.
And I was just going to say, my friend, he just had a retired Delta captain as his first officer. Here he is, 26-year-old that just upgraded as a captain, and he's got this guy sitting in his right seat with him. So I mean,
And he's constantly looking over and go, "Shut up, boomer."
yes, that's exactly how that trip went, actually.
Anyway, so I was when I went into the Chief Pilot office to ask them a few questions a couple of months before my retirement. They said, "Oh, you're not upset about this?" And I went, "No, I'm looking forward to retirement. I'm gonna be in my motorhome, and I'm gonna be exploring the country, and I'm just gonna have a great time." And they go, "Oh," I said, "Why? Are there a lot?" They go, "Oh yeah, there are a lot of people that are really not happy, and we kind of have to explain to them. Well, it's not our rule; it's the FAA. It's
Yeah,
not,
that's
don't yell at
exactly
us." But there are a lot of guys that are and gals unhappy about having to stop flying, and I get that. But I'm glad that I don't feel that way. And so this Senate bill also prohibits airlines from charging fees for families to sit together, and requires airlines to accept vouchers and credits for at least 5 years. I don't know what they were doing before, but did not adopt many stricter consumer rules sought by the current administration. Yes.
Well, I think there'd be a lot of husbands who'll be a bit worried about that because, of course, in the old days, they used to say to their wives, "Oh, darling, they're charging us a fee for us to sit together, so I'm going to sit over there." now they no longer have that excuse.
Yeah,
those darn senators.
Yeah, I think that particular line probably from that bill comes from like Spirit and Frontier that charge for you to pick your seat.
Yeah.
Now the only way because we were looking at using Frontier to go someplace a couple weeks ago, they do their best to keep you together, but they don't guarantee you a spot unless you pay X dollar amount to do it. And I think that's what caused this, people complaining that they're taking advantage of families. But it clearly says when you are booking this that, hey, you don't get a seat unless you pay for it. You get to choose your seat. So
right. Yeah, I see that. Bill says in our audience, would a captain over 65 prefer to keep flying as an FO and earn that level of salary versus just being retired?
Well,
Probably.
I was just about to say we're about to do a pay bump at my company for the FOs, and it's pretty good money to sit right seat.
I would think that would be the case. But again, now we're talking a lot, and I think it depends on the airline. But most airlines in the U.S. are the pilot groups are represented by unions, and you have a lot of different groups within these unions. We have people that were just hired and have their full careers ahead of them and are expecting a certain level of attrition to occur so that they can move up and start enjoying seniority and higher pay rates. And then you have the old geezers like me who are going, "Gosh darn it, you can't kick me out of here until I'm ready to go." And you whippersnapper, and I'm going to keep making all this money and being sick half the time and not flying.
Yep, money makes you sick.
But so there are in other words, there are a lot of groups that are within the pilot group as a whole that have different priorities.
That's right.
And it would be a tough thing for the union to work it out. But hey, that's what they're there for. They're supposed to work these things out. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that if they were able to work out something like that and it didn't adversely affect so many of the less senior people, younger people, maybe that would work. I don't know, because it just seems to make sense that if they were taking over as first officer position, then there would maybe be more captains positions available for the younger people. So I don't know that. I don't really. Yeah, that's true. It's hurting my brain just thinking about it right now.
Yeah,
and
it's
I don't
starting to
really
hurt
care
mine too, trying to
because
process how that would work out for an airline, actually.
I don't care. All right.
Hey, a quick question from me,
yes.
if I may. It's a question that Ted Cruz, that name seems familiar for some reason, said that the bill will nurture innovation, nascent technology like air taxis, hypersonic planes, and unmanned aircraft. I wonder if you could kindly explain to me how that works.
Well, did you notice I didn't highlight that paragraph? Yeah. So
I'm
I
sorry,
actually
Jeff.
thought about
I didn't notice that.
actually deleting it from that, but I thought I'd be safe just not to highlight
No.
it. No, I cannot. No, I cannot make any sense at all of how this bill would nurture innovation.
So
in instant
I
technology.
can give you a quick summary, Nick. There are
Oh,
probably so the bill's this massive document that is hundreds of pages long, and I didn't go through all that. I went through some. There is stuff in there that that mandates the FAA to look into different things and whatnot. But here in the United States, unless you pass the bill, you don't get to see exactly what's in it. And I think this was that type of
Oh, right.
situation where you don't get to see everything that's in there until
Okay.
you all
Is
pass.
it on a scroll? I mean, do you...
I don't doubt it.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill says, sounds like political bafflegab.
Exactly.
Never even heard of that word, but I love it.
Wow. Sounds good.
So let's move on to something that I did. No, I'm not finished with this one yet, Liz. I still have highlighted paragraphs that I haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, you should be. Okay. Let's see. We put more FAA safety inspectors on factory floors and more air traffic controllers into towers, according to. Yes, they're inspecting the factory floors because apparently they're dangerous. Anyway, so obviously more FAA safety inspectors and more air traffic controllers in air traffic control towers, according to Maria Cantwell. We have a huge responsibility to make sure the FAA is doing its job to keep passengers safe. Although in recent years, they haven't been doing a great job of it. And she did not say that. That was something I added. Okay. And then finally, I think this is significant because we've talked about this in accidents and incidents in the past about the limitation on some of the older cockpit voice recorders. The current bill also requires airplanes to be equipped with 25-hour cockpit recording devices and directs the FAA to deploy advanced airport service technology to help prevent collisions, like, for instance, at Austin Bergstrom, where they were running the low visibility approaches and visibility approaches.
Or
and there
JFK,
was
where that American
JFK.
plane ran across the runway and just took off about 30 minutes later and just erased everything.
Yeah, exactly. Or even the Alaska, the recent door plug thing where apparently nobody thought to pull the circuit breaker for the cockpit voice recorder.
Here's the other thing too. I'm sure if we go dig in this bill, that 25-hour requirement is for new certified aircraft.
Probably. Yep.
We haven't had a large transport category fresh sheet design aircraft since the 787, and that's coming up on 30
Shut
years
up,
ago
Stephen.
now.
That's not the point.
just saying.
No, but he's right.
No 737 will ever have a 25-hour recorder. Is that what you're saying?
Not in our lifetime.
No, not in our lifetime.
37 future.
Well, my lifetime might be pretty short now, but
yeah. Well, yeah, nobody's holding their breath there, but at least, maybe if one of these days when they come up with new airplanes, they'll be putting the 25-hour recorders in there.
Yeah. Well, if we really want to go out on a limb, maybe they should just do a live stream data back to the company, and that way it's just constantly recording.
I've heard that suggested by both manufacturers that might be a future. Yeah, exactly.
But they already do a
data.
data stream of engine parameters and all kinds of things.
Yep.
So I wouldn't think that would be a major, leap to have that kind of a technology.
Yeah, I mean, you can have them streaming video cameras as well, and then they could put it on the internet. So, you could be sitting there and you could listen to the pilots chatting in the cruise and watching the cabin crew come in, and that'd be great, wouldn't it?
I'm glad I'm not working anymore.
It'll happen one day.
Airbus bashing. Okay, here we go. This is from airguide.info. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, has now extended its wing inspection directive, initially covering the Airbus A320 CEO family, a current engine option, I guess, to encompass the A320 Neo family, the new engine option. This new directive, replacing the earlier one, mandates inspections in specific wing areas for signs of fatigue cracking. If any cracks are detected, airlines must immediately consult Airbus for approved repair instructions. The directive outlines particular measures for Airbus A3 The directive outlines particular measures for Airbus A321neo aircraft. EASA's revised airworthiness directive now includes thorough inspections of the left-hand and right-hand wings on all Airbus A320 CEO.
Only the left hand and right hand. What about all the other wings?
Well, yeah, I guess not. On and A321neo family aircraft equipped with sharklets. Okay, so most of the Airbus wings have the wing fences that we're kind of used to seeing on the tips of Airbuses, but I guess some of the more modern models are coming out with what I would call winglets, but I guess Airbus calls them sharklets. So apparently that's putting some kind of stresses on the wings that boy, Liz is really working the role of
scraping the barrel today.
and I'd like to say I'm glad that you all can't hear her in the live show. I know you did. Okay, where were we before I was rudely interrupted? Sharklets. Okay. Originally, the directive focused only on inspecting wing manhole access panel attachment holes and the bottom wing skin panels 2 between ribs 13 and 23 on the A319 CEO, A320 CEO, and A321 CEO models. This directive was updated by the European regulator on January 25, 2024. EASA notes the fatigue cracking may occur in the specified wing areas if the aircraft are fitted with the sharklets. While all Airbus A320neo family are manufactured with these modifications, some A320 CEO family aircraft were originally built with wingtip fences. The sharklet retrofit program for these older models began in 2013. EASA warns that undetected and uncorrected conditions could lead to crack development, potentially compromising the wing's structural integrity. And I don't want to hear any wisecracks from any of you, or wing cracks. Anyway, so there you go. You have been notified, those of you
been
flying
warned,
these
yes.
Airbusses. Yeah. Okay.
You'd thought they would have worked out if their sharklets were going to put an additional load on the wing before they brought them on, but there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
No. Let's continue on with this from the Aviation Herald, a preliminary report. An Air Cairo Airbus A320-200N registration Sierra Uniform Bravo Uniform Mike. For some reason I wanted to say Butler, but I'm not sure why. Performing flight 2934.
Hang on, what does Bravo Uniform Mike spell?
Bum. Subum. That's what I should have said. An Air Cairo Airbus A320-200N registration Subum.
Yes,
they were
indeed.
Performing flight 2934 that departed on October 13, 2023 from Hurghada, Egypt to Hanover, Germany, with 172 passengers and 9 crew. Landed on Hanover's runway 27 left, but temporarily veered left off the runway. The aircraft returned onto the runway center line and stopped on the runway. After a brief stop, the aircraft taxied to the apron. Oh, wait a minute. That's what happened last week. But apparently they didn't collect as much mud on the aircraft as the, I forgot what the airline was in Vilnius, Lithuania, that we talked about last week. Yeah, so I guess I could have played this for this particular.
Okay, everybody, come outside. Everybody ready for a wild, wet ride?
Yeah. Slip and slide. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. October 26, 2023, Germany's BFU reported the occurrence was rated a serious incident and was being investigated. Of course, this is the preliminary report from the BFU. Captain was the pilot flying, and the first officer was the pilot monitoring. The crew decided for an ILS approach to runway 27 left because a thunderstorm cell was closing in towards the approach path of runway 27 right, and that the crew had intended to land on. While intercepting the localizer for 27 left, the crew observed the area of rain and turbulence near the approach path on the weather radar. Air traffic control reported the cell was already overhead the aerodrome. Visibility was down to 3,400 meters, which I believe is just a little bit more than 2 miles. There were headwinds almost along the runway of 23 knots, gusting up to 34 knots. Okay, headwind, that's good. The aircraft received landing clearance, was descending on the glide slope with the runway lights in sight. Gear was down, full flaps, extended at 2,350 feet. Auto brakes were set to medium, and ground spoilers were armed. Both autopilots and flight directors were active in localizer and glide slope modes. Auto thrust was in managed speed. Descending through 500 feet, the rain started. Windscreen wipers were selected on fast speed. At 260 feet above ground level, the autopilots were disengaged. Auto thrust remained engaged. The aircraft crossed the runway threshold at 36 feet above ground level at 132 knots indicated, about 4 meters to the left of the runway center line. The crew said that at this time the visibility was good. Runway was clearly visible. However, in the flare, the rain intensity increased and visibility reduced. The windscreen wipers were no longer able to clear the water off the windscreen. I've been there, and it's not fun. The center line and edge lights became blurred, and the captain stated that's possible, therefore, that he confused the runway edge lights for the runway center line lights. That's not good. According to the flight data recorded, the flare lasted for 11 seconds. The first officer called out bank after the bank angle increased from 2 degrees to the left to 5 degrees left. The left main gear touched down first on the grass besides the runway. The right main gear touched down on the runway shortly afterwards before going off the paved surface of the runway 2. The captain used right rudder and the localizer indication to steer the aircraft back onto the runway. Visibility improved again, and sight onto the runway became sufficient again so that the captain steered the aircraft back onto the center line visually. The maximum distance of the left main gear to the runway center line was 33 meters, or 100 feet. Ooh, that was kind of a big miss there. Now, I think, they're talking about rain and, stormy weather and all that kind of stuff, but I'm thinking, and yes, Liz, I am a trained aircraft investigator. It's been a while since I've done any investigations, but my keen eye happened to spot something, and I think I know why they veered off the left side of the runway. Look at that. There was
good Lord.
There was a van. There was
it's white van, man.
A white van on the runway in the touchdown
well,
zone.
no way. It was lucky he spotted it, isn't it?
I know.
Good catch.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, well,
that would have spoiled his day if he hadn't swerved around it.
Exactly. Well, obviously, this is after the fact, and they're showing the marks of the tires off the runway there. But now, I have to say, as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, that I have been in this kind of situation, and I think it's one of those most dangerous situations for me, especially once you do it one time. From that point forward, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to maybe treat these situations a little bit differently. And anytime I saw like moderate to heavy rain forecast, I was always aware that this could be a kind of a dicey situation because you're already well below minimums, and you're in your head committed to landing this airplane. And it's really tough sometimes to talk yourself out of continuing with the landing, especially when you're below minimums and you're seeing everything just fine, and all of a sudden you just lose everything there for just a second or two. But that's all it takes. And I'm wondering if this guy, when he went from 2 degrees to 5 degrees of left bank, if he was like hunting for that, like, okay, I'm waiting to feel my mains on the runway. You know? Like, okay, I'm going to help it a little bit more. I'm going to bank a little bit more to the left to get something on the runway. And then, of course, it turns out that they were no longer over the runway at that point.
Well, you know, I guess after the fact, he was after they touched down, he was using the rudder to get back to the localizer indication, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, were you not looking at that before?
Yeah, that
Probably
was going to
not.
be a point I was going to mention. I mean,
should have been
yeah,
in
in the flare, that close to the runway, the localizer is very sensitive. So 4 meters left, you would have a lot of localizer deflection at that point. No, you shouldn't be staring at your instruments, but neither should you be stopping that scan of instruments and out. You just change the proportion between the amount you're looking into the amount you're looking out. So, yeah, I agree with you, indeed. But it just seems also to me, now, I always thought when you're in heavy rain, if you're going to land firmly, because not only have you got to deal with the weather, but you've got to stop on this runway. And if there's a lot of rain on the runway, you don't want to do a beautiful, easy, gentle touchdown. It will lead to aquaplaning, and then your troubles are only just starting. So an 11-second flare just seems hugely excessive to me. Why he didn't just plant it and get it on the ground while he could, that was great.
And, I wonder if maybe he caught a gust right there at the end, and that caused the flare to go a little bit longer than what was.
He didn't mention it in his excuses, so
darn.
It would have been my first excuse.
Yeah.
I got caught in a big gust and I couldn't get the airplane down, and we drifted off, and before I knew it, we were.
They did mention, what did they say, 30 or 14 to 34? No, wait. 24 to 34
the two that are bolded.
23 knots gusting to 34. That was in the narrative, not the METAR. But yeah,
it's
there were
not
gusty
ideal
winds.
Conditions, but
perfectly doable.
Yeah.
But
So I think what happens, though, when you get to that point where you've just lost all those visual cues, you don't know if you're still coming down at a pretty good rate or if you've overcompensated and now you're just leveled off, 10 feet above the runway. It's you have, unless you can force yourself to look down at that radar altimeter, radio altimeter, to see exactly where you are, and that's.
Well, he's got nice auto call-outs, and it's when they slow down and go 5, 5, 5. You're floating 5 feet above the runway.
iHaul Boxes has a comment for us. With the long flare, should he have just initiated a go-around? Well, that's from Bill. Yes, Bill, I think that was a good idea.
Yes, Bill, I agree.
iHaul Boxes, you can always balk a landing, frappa la derrière, and go around. Yeah, but to both of you, yes, a go-around probably would have, in hindsight here, probably would have been the best form of action.
Derriere sight, Jeff.
Derriere sight, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, same thing as hind sight. I mean, it's. So I've gotten, well, not anymore because I'm not doing this for a living anymore, but I got to the point after having one or more of these kind of situations, talked myself into, if I'm allowed to do it, the parameters are good enough and the aircraft is equipped and operating and the airport facilities are working to facilitate an auto land, that I'm just going to plan on doing an auto land. Now, in this case, the winds would have prevented that from being used. But there are times when you can have this kind of a situation with heavy rain and not have these super gusty winds. And so you're within the auto land parameters of your machine.
There's a famous video on YouTube that's, I don't know how old it is, but it's just this, I think it's a 777 or 74 coming into land and it's raining and they get closer and closer. And I think the rad out's down to 50 feet and then they just lose everything because it's pouring so much rain and they go around. And that probably something these two pilots should have looked at some point. Probably would have been a good refresher for them.
Yeah. I mean, we had an aircraft at Port Harcourt that landed, and as the guy flared, he hit a fog bank that had drifted across the runway, and he lost sight of everything. So he initiated a go-around, sort of in the flare, And of course, it takes a while. So he touched down, and he'd drifted off the runway. So he touched down his wheels off the runway for about, I don't know, a couple of 100 feet, and then he climbed away again. No damage, no problem. But at least he'd already made the decision that this was not going to be a good idea to try and continue this landing. And I think you have to be prepared to do that when you're in these kind of in and out visibility problem situations.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to this from the Aviation Herald. A KLM Boeing 777-200, registration Papa Hotel Bravo, Quebec, Oscar, performing Flight 591 from Amsterdam to Johannesburg, was en route at flight level 330, about 80 nautical miles east of Menorca, Spain, when the crew decided to turn around and return to Amsterdam. The aircraft descended to flight level 280 for the return, dumped fuel, and landed safely on Amsterdam's runway 18 right at about 2 hours after leaving flight level 330, and then they taxied to the apron. The Dutch
Onderzoeksraad
reported they have dispatched investigators to Schiphol Airport for investigation concerning an aircraft that returned to Schiphol with cabin problems. A passenger reported that there was a strange smell, they were not referring to the KLM crew. Fellow passengers were standing, sobbing, shaking, terrified. That's a bad smell. An electrical fire in an oven in the aft galley had started. Toxic gases came from the aft of the cabin. The passengers in the aft cabin were moved to the middle of the cabin, while flight attendants in protective masks rushed with fire extinguishers to put the fire out. The toxic smell continued until they disembarked the aircraft. After landing, passengers were attended to by medical staff, but they all were doing okay. The passenger stated, cabin crew needs trauma counseling. Okay. A replacement aircraft is going to take them to Johannesburg. In January 2024, the Dutch, let me see if I can pronounce that again.
Onderzoeksraad.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, your voice goes a bit funny when you say that, Jeff.
It's just a weird word, and I can't help it.
It sounds a bit feminine, that's all.
Well, I have a feminine side. Let's see. The 6 halon fire bottles were used by the cabin crew. Subsequently, 3 cabin crew and 12 passengers suffered breathing difficulties. The investigation is ongoing. Yeah.
To be expected. If you fire off 6 halon fire extinguishers in the back galley,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Everyone in the vicinity is going to be coughing and wheezing, and their eyes are going to be watering out, because it's not going to kill you, but it's an irritant, and it's going to make you cough, and it's not a very nice smell.
Can't be good for you.
No, it's not like you'd go and breathe it at a health resort, Jeff. No.
Really?
But on the other hand, you're going to survive. It's better than burning to death in a fire. So
absolutely,
I think that's all it was, and it's worth the crew making sure all the passengers understood what the cause was. In other words, relax. We put the fire out. It was not as serious as we thought, so we're going to go back to Amsterdam. By the way, you may be experiencing some irritation to your eyes, nose, and throat because of the fire extinguishing medium we used, or something like that, so that you give people information, and then they won't come up with all these dreadful, badly made descriptions of what they thought was happening. How did they know that this cabin crew needed trauma counselling?
I'm sorry, say again?
How did they know that this cabin crew needed trauma counselling? Did they hide in the toilet or something afterwards?
I don't know. Yeah, they didn't really go into a lot of detail as to why this passenger...
By the way, we always had a full debrief. If every one of these events occurred in the aircraft, we'd get all the passengers off, then the cabin crew and the flight deck would come around, the captain would discuss, and they would have a full debrief of what had just occurred and provide any counselling. In fact, if we were in a home base, we'd get one of the duty managers to come out and do it, and they would single out people who were upset by it, and they would receive counselling. But it's not like it's a particularly worrisome event. I wouldn't have thought.
No, I don't.
I wonder whose dinner burnt. Was it the captain's?
It would have been probably not the captain's in the aft galley. Maybe.
Oh no, that's right. Probably
one of the flight attendant.
Yeah,
or something.
Or she left we have cabin crew put a handbag in the oven because she came on the aircraft in a hurry. And couldn't get to the normal place they stowed the handbag, so she threw it in the oven to get it out of the way for takeoff, then forgot about it.
That reminds me of something that happened for reals on a Delta flight years ago, back in the days when we were actually accepting cash on board the aircraft for alcohol and other things. And this older lady, who probably should have retired decades before, she was she was kind of infamous because people said that she was just so old, she was kind of losing her mind a little bit. And so she ended up...
It happens to people of our age, Jeff.
I know it does. Yeah, I don't want to joke about it too much. But anyway, she was collecting all this cash and didn't know where to put it, so she thought the oven would be a good place to put it. And I think that if anybody out there is listening, if you're a Delta flight attendant, you'll go, oh yeah, we heard about this story. In fact, some of you actually may have been working at the time when this occurred. And the oven, I guess, somehow was on, and the cash got, it was definitely hot cash. Got on, caught on fire, and it was kind of a big event.
I wonder why.
Let's see. iHaul Boxes thinks that this may have been a comment that one of the passengers made to the other. You'd think the creme brulee was supposed to smell like that.
Well, some pretty exotic flavors in creme brulee nowadays.
Yeah, pretty toxic. Yeah.
Halon fumes.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think actually this next one, Liz, I don't even know if I want to cover it because it's kind of a crappy article. We are, yeah. Let's see.
That sounds dreadful.
Dropping something. I don't know. I think it's dropping a whole load of crap is what it's dropping. This is from theguardian.com, which makes sense. A state premier says in emergency situations, sometimes it doesn't always go to plan. After a mistake when fighting the Bullsbrook blaze. Investigators are probing how don't probe too closely, how firefighters came to douse parts of a West Australian town in sewage wastewater while battling a bushfire. Residents of Bullsbrook, about 35 kilometers northeast of Perth, have been warned to empty water tanks and not eat anything from their gardens after water bombers drew from the wrong ponds at a wastewater treatment plant on Wednesday when battling a blaze that was threatening homes and schools. Officials are probing why the ponds were... There's a lot of probing in this article. Officials are wondering why the ponds were not marked as no-go zones in department logbooks. They maintain an extensive log of no-go zones for water sources throughout the state, a spokesperson said on Friday. A review of the status of all available water sources in the state will be conducted. One of the ponds contained a safe water supply. However, it was later discovered the two other nearby ponds contained wastewater. Let's see. Bullsbrook resident Natalie Bennett said her family was hosing down their roof when they were showered by helicopters passing overhead on Wednesday. When they flew over us leaking water at the time, it felt lovely as it was so hot. Now she doesn't feel that way.
It's going for a leak. That helicopter's going for a leak over us.
It feels so lovely. And then she was horrified to receive a text at 2 a.m. local time, or awakened in the middle of the night. By the way, that lovely little water spray could have been a potential exposure to hazardous bacteria. Have a nice day. Get back to sleep now. Ugh. Yeah. So that was just.
But I like the comment, regardless of the grossness and possible danger from the hazmat, we're eternally grateful to all the fireys who saved our homes.
Well, that's
the
nice.
school and the doctor's surgery. It wouldn't have been possible without the chopper's fast turnaround.
All right. So overall, I think that the sentiment is that the excrement wasn't such a big thing.
No.
Bill says, is this the case where the excrement hit the air conditioner? Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Oh, and yeah, I'm sure the golden shower jokes are coming for sure. All right. Time to get to know us. Good idea. Let's see. Here we go. The time of the show where we get to get all caught up with what we've been doing between shows. Now, Stephen, it's been a while.
Yes, it has.
since you've been on our show, so you can't take the next several hours to get us caught up with everything that we've been doing. But why don't you pick a couple of highlights since you were with us the last time? And I think I have an idea of some of those highlights that you might mention, but I'm gonna give you the floor.
And explain what happened to your beard.
But did I have a beard last time?
Well, I've got a picture of you right here.
Oh, okay.
Well, that wasn't on the last show. That was even
not the last show, no. But
yeah,
I remember you with the beard.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was that place in Atlanta that we had a meetup.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Ormsby's.
That's right. Great memory.
Yeah. And it looks like the team's got together again.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish I could have a beard.
That's great,
again.
isn't it?
I don't remember the last time I was here, but the big highlight, I have a son now, in case I didn't cover that then. Maverick.
Mini-me, Liz is saying, because your son looks like a miniature version of
he really does.
Stephen.
But he's 11 months 2 days ago, and then his first birthday is next month. So we've been planning that out. And then we also have number 2 on the way.
Wow!
And
Congrats.
She is due in July.
Oh wow!
So, right.
So we're gonna have a perfectly balanced family. So that's great.
Well done. Yeah, that's fantastic.
I know, very exciting and scary all at the same time. And then I had long recurrent into January. Everything went good. And then I'm still on the Phenom with the company I'm at now. Still a captain. And that's
so you're
really,
a phenomenal pilot.
I am a phenomenal pilot. I actually saw a job posting the other day. It said looking for a phenomenal pilot, and everyone was like, "Are you need a phenom pilot, or you just need a phenomenal pilot,
or both,
or both?" Anyway, but that's really all I've been up to. Nothing.
Well, and you're in a new home, right? Probably the last time you were on the show.
Yeah, I think the last time I was in the other house. We moved almost a year and a half ago now. We moved over to Noonan, kind of close to where Mike Carroll's is located. On the other side of town. Kind of needed the space for the kids and everything, so that's where we're at now. But that's really all.
Liz is wondering if there's space for an RV, maybe.
Unfortunately,
there was in your old place, but not
there was, which I still own. So if you do need to go, we can work that out.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I don't think the HOA would appreciate you parking on the side.
Every time I see you, Stephen, and I think back of that great time that couple of weeks that we got to spend with each other. Heading out to California in the Prius and all those wonderful sights that we got to see. Yeah.
That's the other big thing that just happened. We got a family car now, and I sold the Prius.
Oh no!
And you know what? I got a little emotional when we were signing the paperwork. I was like, oh, I did a road trip with Jeff and this and everything.
Yeah, I if I remember to do this, I'll put a link in the show notes. Of the we did several little short videos on our big road trip out to California. We had a good time.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun, man. A completely different, completely different Stephen Ivy back then, right? Completely
Yeah, I mean,
single, had not met your future wife.
yeah. So I mean, for those
Yeah.
that are new here, almost we'll call it 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2020, I think.
2020. I
Yeah.
was single. I was working at SkyWest, and COVID happened, and then I got a job with Lockheed Martin out in California, and took Jeff with me to help move my car and my stuff across there, and then about I guess it was 6 months later, met my wife online, and then ended up getting married about a year after that. So
And now,
Great.
one child and one on the way. Wow.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's
So,
brilliant.
Amazing.
I'm so impressed there, Stephen. You didn't fall into the trap by saying, I was single, happy, and carefree.
well, you know, I might have if I wasn't suffering from commuting and being on reserve. I mean, it wasn't fun. It wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
fun.
How you
Oh,
did that.
okay.
That was a pretty rough life that you were living.
Yeah.
Oh, tough at the top. Yeah.
And you know, I'm not trying to disown anyone that does it. It's not fun. It's difficult. Anybody that has to commute to work for an airline is it's not fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thankfully, I never had to do that myself.
Sucks the fun out of your soul.
Yeah,
it does. It really does.
Yeah, so it was really, really nice to have you on the show, Stephen.
Yeah.
In fact, while we were on that road trip, I think we recorded 2 episodes of APG.
We did.
So we were, we were co-hosting even back in 2020, the summer of 2020, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. All right. So thanks, Stephen. Captain Nick, I think that you've been busy with things and they're all not super pleasant.
Well, yeah. I mean, I did a talk to the Hawk Association.
That's what I mean.
mentioned
That was
it in the
not
last.
pleasant at all for those
Yeah. So there's me, and look, there's me advertising the Airline Pilot Guy podcast.
Yeah, I love it.
And there was a
You
bijou.
photoshopped that, right?
Indeed. This was the audience gathering in the Hawker Centre in Kingston, and it was very good. Lovely guy there, a Harrier test pilot, and lots of very good Hawker engineers of old when there used to be an aircraft factory there. Anyway, the talk went fine, and that was great fun. But
Wait,
sadly,
go back to that. I'm sorry. Before you
what's
go
that?
on to the
it's the
sad
old
stuff.
gentleman with his chips.
The old gentleman next to the guy with the chips is kind of just sadly looking
is
down,
he
going,
asleep?
"Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, what was I thinking coming here? This is
Well,
this is
I
going to be
did
the
go
most
back and
boring
chat to
thing."
him, and I cheered him up marvelously. But you remind me, they actually get a lot of their audience on Zoom, so they televise it as well. So you get a lot of people watching it remotely, their talks. Anyway, that was good fun. Nice to see Frank Rainsborough, who runs the thing, and Chris, the president, as well. So I'm very worried at the moment because our oldest Wiesler, Rusty, is very unwell, and it happened at the beginning of the week, really. She became ill very quickly. This is Rusty in fine health, but she was diagnosed as being very anemic. It looks like it might be an immune related problem, so they're saying IMHA, which is immune-mediated hemolytic anemia, where it's the body's own defense system that attacks your red blood cells and the bone marrow, etc. So yeah, she's not at all well, and we're really sort of fighting the system here because our local vet has shrunk and no longer looks after dogs after hours. So we now have to shunt her. She's really very ill, but we're putting her in the car and taking her 20 or 30 miles to another city where there is an overnight service. So we check her in there and bring her out, and they they say you've got to be out at 7:30 in the morning. So that means getting up very early to go and pick her up, bring her back to our normal vet. They look after during the day. And we've been doing that all week, really. And she was going downhill very fast, but we managed to get some blood to transfuse her with. Very nicely. One of the vets used her own dog for one transfusion, but now I had to go and they managed to find some blood. It's really hard to get hold of unless you're willing to pay you know, £600 or £700 to have it specially shipped down from some centre up north. Anyway, I managed to find a local veterinary hospital that provided some, so I drove out to this place and came back with it. Anyway, there's lots to this story, and I don't need to bore you, but she's hanging on. She's hanging on really because we're transfusing her, and we're hoping that the treatment for the autoimmune problem, which is basically steroids, will kick in and she'll start to regrow her own blood cells. But sadly, I'm not confident, but we're going to wait and see. We know we're living and hoping at the moment, but more news of that next week, I expect. In the meantime,
thoughts are with her and with you.
Oh, you're very kind. Yeah, Jilly, of course, it hits very hard because she just loves her dogs. I mean, I do too, but I tend to go onto this very practical plane when these sort of things happen, and I don't really feel the emotional side of it until it's probably too late, but there you go. Oh, indeed, yeah, we're doing this together. Sadly, Jilly's away on a special weekend. I'm looking after all the dogs on my own this weekend, so it's going to be a busy old time, but I'm sure we can sort that out. What else has been happening? Nothing really, other than the cover art for last week. Yeah. We had a very interesting subject to cover because we had runaway runways, we had off-roading in my airliner, we had squeeze, play, and poop pyramids. These were all the suggestions. And splish splash, it's an Airbus bath, and a John Deere Airbus. And this was mainly due to the off-roading airliners that couldn't keep to the tarmac. So I duly found a picture of an off-roading airliner and a poop pyramid, which Hillel, since he's splish splashing in a bath normally, is cuddling, which is a bit of a worry if you ask me. And we turned the airliner into a John Deere machine, so I hope you Americans appreciate that.
I do.
And we managed to get the logo at the bottom of the poop pyramid, just below the word poop. Yes, poor Hillel hiding, trying to get out of the way.
I was very astonished that he that our logo is there on the
obviously. That's right. And then we hid the show number. It's peeking out from behind the ridge line there. So the 6 is on its side, as is the 0. The 5's upright, but it wasn't immediately obvious because Jeff couldn't find it.
Doing some show prep here, I'll go, okay, where is it? I don't see it.
Indeed, exactly right. So there you go. That was last week's cover art.
Very good. Great job. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have. And we're, I was going to say we were up to date with the Plaintails, but now I'm one behind.
Well, sort of.
Sort of, yeah. Exactly right. So Plaintail today. I would suggest you play it at times 2 speed. I was listening to it this afternoon saying, why was I speaking slowly? But I really don't know. I was probably a bit tired.
No, it sounds good to me.
Good. Excellent.
Well, I have been just doing my normal singing, a lot of singing.
I'm singing!
Let's see, we just had Fat Tuesday on Tuesday of this week, Mardi Gras. And then the next day is Ash Wednesday. And so that's kind of a big deal in a lot of Christian churches. And sang at a couple of masses yesterday for that. It's also St. Valentine's Day. most people just call it Valentine's Day.
Yep.
That just happened to fall on the same day this year. And for the rest of Lent, the Ash Wednesday starts the season, liturgical season of Lent. And so it's going to approximately 40 days until Easter Sunday. And so I'm going to be busy doing some extra singing during Lent, especially on Fridays for some extra things. And so, that's the update on my.
When you say
my
liturgical, does that mean you all go and take each other to court?
No, not that's liturgical and not liturgical.
Big difference. Yes, okay, all right.
Liturgy is the church seasons.
Okay.
Did you give?
Am I giving
anything
up?
up?
I'm giving up APG for Lent. Yes, I am giving up. No.
Oh, okay, well, that's good to know, I guess.
It sounds like it would be a good idea. I have selected something to attempt to give up, and I've also taken on. It isn't always that you leave something behind or give something up, but it may be things that you do that you just don't normally do in your normal life. And so I have a couple. I don't want to really share because basically because I'll probably be embarrassed when I fail, which is usually the case for me. But anyway, so that's going on, and let's see. Then we mentioned last episode that our new senior executive producer Mark Z from Ops Group has become a patron of the show, and we do appreciate that. And that Captain Nick and I have been able to take advantage of the daily briefing from Ops Group and our membership there. And I just thought I saw something a couple of days ago that I thought might be worth mentioning. I wasn't sure exactly where to put it in the show lineup. I guess it could have been feedback, but I just thought it was worth mentioning, especially to those people like Stephen and Pip and others out there who are flying business aircraft and flying to a lot of destinations that we don't fly to in the scheduled airline service world. And this kind of applies to that world, and also it happens to coincide with a very high-profile pop singer and NFL
Lady
Super
Gaga.
Bowl. No, Taylor Swift. Did you notice the headline here? From,
No, I
Ops
was
Group?
assuming it was Madonna or someone
No,
like
see,
that.
it says US FAA swift move to improve flight tracking privacy. See, Swift is Taylor Swift. See what they did there? They little play
there
on
you go.
words.
Very good.
That's what the Ops Group people will do.
Sounds
They
much
try
better than Gaga move.
Yeah, Gaga move would have not have been the same connotation. So anyway, the FAA's Privacy ICAO address, which is PIA program, has been expanded to include some new oceanic and Gulf of Mexico routes. If you're not familiar with this program, it prevents users' aircraft registration from being tracked by third parties using ADS-B output during U.S. domestic flights. Check below for exactly which routes this program now applies to and our obstacle with steps on how to register. So this article goes into a lot of detail. And so that's one of the things that you'll remember maybe about a year ago, maybe longer. Elon Musk was a little upset with a guy that was taking data that was freely and universally publicly available on ADS-B Exchange. If you know the aircraft registration number, even though people have made many attempts to try to be stealth and kind of fly places without people knowing and tracking them and that kind of thing. And well, there's this guy that basically created a website that was using the freely available information on ADS-B Exchange and putting it on there, and that Musk was not happy about that. So I guess this is kind of one of the, and Taylor Swift, she was in Japan, I believe, Tokyo, doing some kind of a concert, and then she hopped on a private jet and flew across the Pacific and got to Las Vegas in time for the Super Bowl because her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, one of the football players for the Kansas
Chiefs.
City Chiefs. And so anyway, so it's, a lot of this was in the news again about privacy of passengers and private jet traffic. And just so happens that we have somebody here that's what they do for a living. They fly these private jets and that kind of thing. And are you familiar with this program, Stephen? This PIA program?
The first I've heard about it, but you know, I work for primarily a fractional ownership company, so people buy fraction of the airplane. We provide the plane, the crew for them when they need it. And you can track all of our airplanes. You know, if you know the N number, you can punch it in, pull it up, and you can see where the plane's at. You just don't know who's on it. Which, I mean, I'll be honest, is a really simple solution here. I understand why people own their own aircraft. I know why they want to do it. But if you want to be incognito, just buy a fraction of an airplane, and then they're not going to know which one you're on unless the paparazzi are following you to wherever you're going. And then that's a whole other issue because they're going to know which plane you're on anyway. So, I mean,
what was that service that popped up 5-10 years ago? What?
ADSB Exchange?
No. There was a company that kind of offered flight dispatch services and stuff like that, but it also gave people a way to obscure. They used a third party kind of call sign, so they weren't using their.
They're called
.com.
.com. Yeah. I think it's. I can't think of the name of the website though.
Yeah, but anyway, so that sort of kind of solved the problem back then.
Yeah.
But then people finally started figuring out that if you know the registration number of the aircraft, the call sign doesn't make any difference because now you know the N number of the airplane and it's in the public database on ADSB Exchange. So, and I think it also coincided with the popularity of and the more and usage of ADSB data, and so much for that idea. So I can, as you said, I can understand the desire for people to, especially people that have private jets that are parts of big corporations that are in competition with other big corporations or companies, and they don't want their competition to know where they're flying because that could indicate to them what they're up to and deals going on.
We do a lot of backfilling for large corporations, and I don't when I fly, I don't know if we're filling in because their jet's down or whatever reason. But if you're going to a meeting and you don't want people to know about it, are you going to take your plane that's got the registration for the company? You're going to take one of ours that's just registered to the office and where my company's out of.
That'd be the way to do it.
Makes sense.
Well, if you're somebody out there listening who wants to know more about this, you have to operate a U.S. registered aircraft, which is ADSB equipped, which is probably all of them, right?
Yes.
Use a third-party call sign and flying in U.S. territorial airspace, the mainland, Alaska, Hawaii, and other U.S. territories. So, so it's somewhat limited, this going incognito kind of thing that the FAA has put out there. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you're right, Liz. I'm sure. Why wouldn't they be listening to us, Taylor Swift and Elon Musk? Come on. All right. I thought I'd throw that out there. I don't know who listens to our show that could possibly benefit from learning more about this, but
it's interesting. I'll be honest. I'm really surprised the FAA just hasn't found a way to charge people to mask their ADSB data and call sign and do it that way. But I guess they're too
I think it would be more lucrative to charge people to look at the ADSB data.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it for the Getting to Know Us segment, and that means it's time for some coffee.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
Oh yeah. Thanks for singing with me, Liz. The Coffee Fund, it's your way, dear listener, to promote and support the show financially if you have the financial resources to do that. A couple of different ways to do it. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method, basically a PayPal donation page. And since our last episode, we have a contributor to our show named Stephen Simpson. Thank you, Stephen, for giving us a nice contribution. And we do have some feedback from Stephen as well. And the other way to support us financially and be part of the Coffee Bar Club or the Coffee Fund cadre is via Patreon. Patreon.com/airlinepilotguy is where you'd find us on Patreon, and that's a way to pledge a certain amount per episode, and you're charged on your credit card or whatever. It supports us, and it can be as little as $1 per episode or more, depending on your financial resources. So if you're interested in helping us in that way, please go over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. We will too. All right. Need to take a break, Stephen?
I do, actually.
Yeah, okay. You do that, and I'll hang here and talk with the folks, and then I might actually do the same when I get back.
I'll be right back.
All right. Let's see. How's everybody doing there in the chat? Yeah. Okay. You know, Bill, talking about a Taylor solution and not celebrities. I think actually Taylor could probably care less about this whole thing. It's probably her lawyers that are concerned about tracking and such. Yeah. Should probably give a rat's. Yeah. Nick can entertain the troops. I'll be right back, Nick.
Hello. What would you like? I could sing you a song. I know rude ones. No, not from my rugby song repertoire. Right. Oh, Liz is asking about bowling. I'm supposed to be doing some of this weekend, actually. I've been asked to play for Hampshire County on Sunday, but I'm beginning to think I won't be able to because I'll be nursing dogs. It's a matter of where Rusty ends up being looked after during the weekend, and assuming she hangs on that long, because we're just living life day by day at the moment, so fingers crossed there. We had some pictures of Rusty. You put them up when I was doing my bit. Thanks. Yeah, can do. It's just that, there you go. That's kind of like what she looks like now, because that was only a few months ago on a holiday. Yeah. And a lot of people ask me why I tattooed her ear. Well, I didn't. It was something the breeder did to all his dogs, because he bred working dogs. And it's a special number code that you register, so that if your dog is stolen and someone spots the number, then they can check against the registry to see if... right. Oh, okay. Yeah. I suggested, an anchor or something, or I Love Mum would have been more appropriate. But no.
A big heart.
Yeah. Okay, 20 minutes then.
Okay.
Cool.
Very good, very good. I think so. Let's do some feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
All right, let's start off with this from Robert in Tucker, Georgia. Not Robert Tucker. He says, on a Beach King Air out west, Congratulations to my friend Matt, who graciously agreed to spend some time on a short podcast with me to share some stories as a new pilot out west. The link below should advance to a particular segment about the unique 9th seat on his plane that's rarely used, that I think that the crew may particularly enjoy. Okay, well, let's see if he's right about that. We're going to play this audio feedback from Robert's podcast.
So wait a minute. The 9th person has to sit on the toilet?
If we were to carry a 9th passenger, yeah. Don't get me wrong, there is a cushion seat on top of the toilet, so it is technically an official seat, but we don't tend to use it. The most we will book our flights is 8.
And so I assume this toilet is used really in emergencies then.
Yeah, I mean, the longest our flight time generally is 2 hours, and we don't generally make people aware that there is one. We always, all of our ground service agents, and I'll tell you why in a second, all of our ground service agents at our locations tell everyone now's the time to use the restroom before we start boarding, so everyone goes off and uses the restroom before they get on board. It's because the toilet is a cassette toilet. It's like what you would have in a camper van or something. And so who would have the joy of having to empty that if someone does use it? Me.
So not only are you the first officer, you have to clean up after everyone too. Yeah.
I do. I am the cabin crew. I am the baggage loader. I am the toilet cleaner. I am all of those wrapped into one. So yeah, we try not to publicize that there is a bathroom on the aircraft. And trust me, it's not the prettiest because you sit next to the cargo in the tail, and you just have sliding doors that kind of separate you from the main cabin. It's not a fully enclosed toilet cubicle. So it would not be a pleasant experience for anyone.
Wow. So now you know more than
That
you
was
want
great
to know about that 9th seat on a King Air. Stephen, you've flown a lot of smaller aircraft.
Yes.
Does this sound familiar to you in any way?
You know, it sounds familiar, and I've been very fortunate that my 2 business jet aircraft that I've flown have nice toilets. The one I'm currently on is more akin to this King Air one. The big rule is number 1 only. If you have to go number 2, wait till the end of the flight, because the tank is not that big and the smell just comes through the plane.
Yeah.
So it's bad.
Emergency only.
Yeah, emergency only. And you know, as far as cleaning and everything, it's not that bad actually.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hal Boxes says, "Excuse me, sir. Would you mind getting up for a sec so I can poop in your seat?"
You know, yeah.
Excellent.
The Challenger comes standard. The 300 series Challenger comes standard with the belted lav, and in most cases, it's where if you have a flight attendant on board and you don't have a jump seat, they'll sit there on takeoff and landing, or if it's turbulent. The Phenom comes optional with a belted lav. My company, our standard configuration doesn't have it. We have 2 planes that do have it, but in most of the time it doesn't work for weight and balance because it's too much weight for having 8 people on board the aircraft. And not only that, it is a little cramped back there if you're actually having to sit on there. So
yeah. Yeah. Gives new meaning to cramp. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that, Robert. Appreciate that. Very insightful. Yeah. I don't know where Captain Nick went. He decided
my
to be shy
camera
or
seems to have stopped for some reason, so I'm just going to leave and come back again.
Camera stopped working, so he's going to leave us momentarily. So while he does that, we're going to go ahead and move on to this next feedback item. Some audio feedback from our friend Tom in Missouri, and it has to do with something that we talked about on previous shows called guns and TSA security. So here we go. Maybe. Try that again.
Hey, Captain Jeff. Tom from Missouri. Long time no talk. It's good to send a feedback finally after probably a couple of years. I haven't stopped listening, still out here listening, and really enjoy the podcast. I want to say congratulations on your retirement. I'm late doing that, and I apologize for that, but we'll just call it fashionably late. I hope so far you're enjoying it, and I hope at some point I'm able to see you when you're passing through Missouri in that RV.
Yeah.
Hey, I was listening to episode 603, excuse me, and you guys were talking about all the guns being confiscated at security, and that's something I wanted to comment on. I don't talk about guns much. It's something I like to keep private, but I feel like this is a safe place to bring that up. So I will say that I can see how it's possible to get to security and forget you're carrying a gun. It's not responsible, but I can see where it's possible. And let me tell you how I think it's possible. So I'm a concealed carry permit holder here in Missouri. I've been a concealed carry permit holder for many years. I've been a concealed carry permit holder in pretty much every state I've lived in. And a job I used to have, I got moved all over the country. And with the exception of New York, I was able to secure a carry permit in all of those states. But as a gun carrier, it is a responsibility that you should not take lightly. And what I have done is I've had plenty of training, and I still continue training on a regular basis. I have a guy here in Missouri that I see at least once a year, if not more, and go through continuing training, and I run drills, and it's just a responsible thing to do. And I've never had an instance where I've gone to the airport and forgotten I've had my gun. I think it's irresponsible to do that. However, there was one time, excuse me, that I did go to the airport. I'd been working all day long. I had a late flight. I was running late. I got to the airport and I reached in my pockets to empty out my pockets, and I had a pocket knife. I carry a pocket knife. If I'm flying somewhere, I leave it at home. That day, since I worked all day, I just forgot about it. And guess what? I had to lose my pocket knife. I wasn't able to take it through security. It was my irresponsibility that caused that to happen. So the consequences were is I had to lose my pocket knife. I can see a gun holder doing that. I personally know people that carry guns that, in my opinion, don't take it seriously enough and are not 100% responsible. And I could see them getting to the airport and being like, oh my gosh, I have a gun. I forgot all about it. What do I do now? And it's, in my opinion, those people shouldn't be carrying guns. But, we have the Second Amendment, and it's easy to carry a gun here in the States. I know a lot of people in other countries don't understand the gun culture. It's just something I was raised with, something I continue to be part of. And the job that I have now, I'm a director for a local TV station. I do the morning shows. I go to work at 2 a.m. I will tell you that most of the girls that are on TV have stalkers. And occasionally those stalkers will show up at the station. And they don't mind doing it at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I very much feel more comfortable because I have a gun. Fortunately, I've never had to use it. I hope I never do. That's the last thing that we want to do. However, I just feel more comfortable that I have it in those situations. If somebody were to break in the building and cause trouble. So hopefully that gives a little bit of insight on how it's possible for it to happen. Now, I have traveled with a handgun many, many times over the years. Nick Camacho talked about that. I too had an issue once in California when I told the lady at the check-in counter that I was carrying a gun in my suitcase. And, she kind of flipped out a little bit. But here in Missouri, and I go to Florida quite often. My wife's family's down there. I've never had trouble at anywhere else in the country. I know a lot of people do it. It's easy to do. I have a special locked case that goes inside my suitcase that actually cable ties inside my suitcase. So somebody can't just reach in my suitcase and grab that and yank it out and take it. It's actually secured inside the suitcase. So I have to declare that to the ticket agent. They always want to see the gun is unloaded. They'll have me open the case, show them the weapon, that it's unloaded. I always have a gun lock on my gun, so it's clear when you look at it that it not only is unloaded, but it's also secured. And then the ammunition has to go in a separate case, also inside the suitcase. And then I'll lock that case. They'll usually tape a sticker or a form to the outside of that case. And then there's a TSA lock on my bag. And then what always happens, at least here when I fly in and out of St. Louis, is the ticket agent in St. Louis always walks me to the TSA screeners that screen the luggage. And as the TSA guys screen my luggage, they'll give me the high sign that it's good, and then I can go on and go through security and go to the gate. So it's an easy process. It's a couple extra steps you have to do. But again, if you're going to be responsible, those are things that you want to do. And I will say, my permit to carry a gun is reciprocal with many other states. It's my responsibility to know those states. There's a state that neighbors us here that if I go in that state carrying a concealed weapon, as soon as I cross that state line, I'm a felon. Okay, it's my responsibility to know that. So when I go into that state, and I'm several times a year I'm in that state, I have to make sure that I'm not carrying a concealed weapon when I cross that state line. There's things that I have to do to store that gun properly in my vehicle so that I'm not going to be a felon if I happen to get pulled over for speeding or, something else. So it's totally on the gun owner to make sure you know the rules and you abide by those rules. So anyway, hopefully that clears things up a little bit. I can see how it's possible to take a gun through security. I still don't think it's a responsible thing to do. And whatever consequences there are, those people have to suffer those. So, all right, guys. Captain Jeff, I was thinking the other day, I've been listening to this podcast since episode 90. That's a long time. And I really appreciate all that you do and all that the rest of the crew does. It's still such an enjoyable podcast. And I think the best thing, and we've said this a million times, we've heard this from so many different people over the years, but I'll reiterate it again. You don't just have a podcast, you've created a community, and you have much to be proud. You have much to be proud about for that, is that this community exists, and it's huge, it's worldwide, and it's just really cool that you've done that. So thanks again. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
I hope so as well, Tom. Thank you so much for those last words. Do appreciate that. And Liz, here we go. Thank you for saying so regarding the building of the community, Tom. So usually she gets on to me because I downplay that, but I'm trying.
You've
to
done
better.
good. You've done good, Jeff.
But it's and I've met up on several meetups with Tom. He actually made his way all the way over to Dana's hosting of the what was that, the 300th?
300, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and also, speaking of Dana, Tom just mentioned that he started listening on episode 90. I believe episode 90 was that episode where Tony, aka Dana, was my guest host. And yeah, anyway, so it's been a long way. Yeah. Right, you're right about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about Jeff's mooch docking database, and yeah, you can put your name in the hat, in the ringer, in the database spreadsheet, whatever you want to call it, Tom. But anyway, I look forward to definitely seeing you on my travels around the country, and thank you for talking about the TSA and guns and security and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's very incumbent upon a person, especially if you have a concealed carry, to know what the rules are and to get proper training and be proficient at using a weapon. And as you mentioned, you talked about like going to one of the states that is adjacent to his state, and as soon as he crosses the line, and if he's still concealing a weapon, he's a felon. And that's really one of I kind of looked into this and realized that I'm not going to do this as an RV driver, because I'm going to be cutting through all kinds of states throughout my travels, and it just sounds to me like just way too much of a hassle to have to. Yeah, I don't want to spend any time in my
Just buy a
retirement in jail.
flamethrower instead, Jeff.
Okay,
That'll
a
work.
flamethrower. That's
Yeah.
probably or a bazooka or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you need a couple of
Trebuchet.
missiles mounted in the roof of your RV anyway.
Yeah.
So
That sounds like fun.
Mm.
Okay. Liz is kind of making an audible here. And I think we have time for one more piece of feedback before we go to this episode's Plain Tale. And this is item number 7. It's some audio feedback from Grant McCarran and Evan. And Evan Shue, yes.
so long as he doesn't talk about balloons again.
Yeah, well, it says, "Hi, Jeff and crew. I went for a flight with Evan Shue last weekend in a Cirrus SR22 G3, which has a 4-bladed propeller and the registration VHKJN, aka Cajun. Afterwards, we recorded a quick hello and update on what we've been doing lately. Hopefully the attached MP3 is worthy of inclusion in a future episode of yours." Yes, you made the cut.
Can you put
Grant.
that first picture up again, Jeff? Hasn't
Actually,
that
Liz is doing
airplane
that.
got amazing speed brakes? The
Yeah,
air
well,
brakes on
it really
that.
slows down
I've
fast
never
when-
seen anything like it. Remarkable.
Fourplex / speed brakes. Yeah. Anyway, so let's listen to the audio feedback that they sent us.
Airline Pilot Guy Show. This is Grant from Plane Crazy Down Under, and I am joined by a very special friend of mine.
Evan from Down Under.
Yeah, Evan Shue. Last time we sent something to you together, we were in the basket of the balloon while flying close to Bacchus Marsh.
That's true.
Yeah. Today we've jumped in a Cirrus, hashtag Team 4-Blade, and taken Cajun up to Tokemal to hang out at the Drome Cafe, check out the aircraft, and I got to record some content with Alan Arthur about his P40 and Matt Henderson about the historical significance of that aerodrome, the museum they've got there, and the fantastic cafe. Evan, what was it like to fly up there for brunch?
Oh, it was the best day for it.
Blue skies.
You cannot see a cloud in the sky at all, and it was smooth. And we just had a wonderful trip up and back. Yeah.
Well, wheels off the ground at 8 o'clock, or 8:15. So they're not long after 9. So yeah, that contributed to the smoothness. Plus being at about 7,000. But on the way back, we picked up a few lumps around Kilmore Gap and the hills coming into Melbourne. But that's to be expected.
Yeah, we had had to get back to give the plane to the next client, so we just made sure that we were quick, and thankfully we got in just in time.
Exactly. But this is a very belated congrats to Jeff for the birthday, the retirement, and the 600th episode, and all the other things I've been meaning to get to you about because I'm slack, something very busy, something slacker. But yeah, I've been meaning to send in lots of congrats, and thought here with Evan, perfect time to do it.
Yeah, congrats, Jeff.
But yeah, so to Jeff and the crew, yeah, it's a beautiful. We're looking after summer for you. It's a cracker summer day, 31 today, something like 34 to 37 tomorrow. Oh yeah, that's centigrade.
Celsius, yep.
Yeah, Celsius, centigrade, same. It's probably almost pretty similar to what some of the Midwest are getting on a warm day at the moment, except they're Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's beautiful. Shorts and t-shirt, happy.
Do you want to give the guys an update on what you're doing for a crust these days?
Well, I'm working on what would be called in the States an A&P. So my airframe and power plant license, and in Australia we call it the LAME, L-A-M-E. Right now I'm an AME, so I'm an aircraft maintenance engineer, and I'll work on the license part. So,
yeah, the licensing is hard because CASA keeps shifting the goalpost, don't they?
But yeah, I fixed the Cirruses that some of them I get to fly, and the one we fly today I actually maintain. So I've got to make sure I do everything correctly.
Anyhow, that's enough rambling from me.
And me.
Evan, thanks so much for a great day flying, and congrats again to Jeff and the crew. May there be many, many more episodes.
See you guys.
Thanks so much for sending in that audio feedback. And Evan, I don't know, it sounds pretty lamey to me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I was trying to work out what the symbol was on Grant's hat. It looked like a kind of a samurai dragon with wings. I didn't quite work out how it, fixed with the balloon.
Can you pop that back up on his cap?
Yeah, can you zoom in on that?
No, she can't zoom in.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
Can.
Well,
yeah.
thank you for taking the time to record some audio, and it's always great to hear what you all are up to down on the other side of the earth.
Indeed.
All right. Yes. Liz is telling us this is perfect timing for our episode, or what's the our installment.
Yeah, but it is the day for pirate talk.
Playing tales. So the old pilot is sea in a void. Here we go.
The old pilot's playing tales. Sea and a void. It's the summer of 1971, and Helen Reddy is singing about hiking down to the Canyon store to buy a bottle of wine and having such a good time. I've no doubt that the 9 prominent Salt Lake members of the Fishy, Trout and Drinking Society, returning from their deep-sea fishing trip, were feeling equally relaxed as they boarded their flight back home from Los Angeles. They were getting onto a Hughes Air West DC-9 Flight 706, the forerunner of Captain Jeff's beloved Mad Dog and Angry Puppy, belonging to a new regional airline purchased and renamed by Howard Hughes. Hughes Air West aircraft were to become instantly recognizable by their banana yellow fuselage and tail logo. Their pilots that day were both around 50 years of age and were highly experienced, with more than 30,000 flying hours between them. On November 9345, the DC-9 pilots completed their preparation and departed LAX, bound for Salt Lake. A little before them, a U.S. Marine Corps F-4B Phantom II, Bureau number 151458, departed Mountain Home Air Force Base in southwest Idaho, bound for Naval Air Station Fallon in Nevada. 458 had been part of a formation of 2 from the 323rd Marine Fighter Attack Squadron, part of 11 Group on the 3rd Air Wing, and they were on a cross-country flight from El Toro in Orange County. Their first stop-off was to refuel at Mountain Home, but the crew of 458 had suffered a radio failure on the way in. After refueling, the flight leader carried on to their next destination, McCord Air Force Base, instructing his wingman to effect repairs and then return to El Toro. Fixing the radio was a simple matter of replacing a fuse, but additional faults were discovered. The F-4's transponder the system that enhances a radar return, was inoperative. The oxygen system had a leak and the radar performance was degraded, particularly in the air-to-air mode. The technicians at Mountain Home were unable to fix the additional snags, but despite this, the crew were able to persuade their superiors to allow them to continue on to Fallon as originally planned. So, without a transponder, with a dodgy radar and oxygen system, the crew took off. En route, the oxygen system failed completely, and they were forced to finish the flight at low level. Late in the afternoon, 458 departed Fallon, following a route that took them across the Fresno, Bakersfield, and Los Angeles air corridors. In that same summer of 71, only a few weeks later, but 5,000 miles away across the Pacific Ocean, an all-Nippon Airways Boeing 727 Flight 58 was departing from Shitose Airport bound for Haneda Airport in Tokyo. The aircraft, Julia Alpha 8329, was a mere 3 months old, and the pilots were enjoying flying in the immaculate flight deck with the switches and paintwork all shiny and unblemished by wear and tear. Most of the passengers were from Fuji in the Shizuoka Prefecture and were members of a society of war-bereaved families returning from a trip to Hokkaido. The ANA flight crew were capable and experienced, and included an American flight engineer. They were cruising at 28,000 feet, and their route was going to take them over a Japanese Air Self-Defense Force airbase at Matsushima. As they set course, a pair of Japanese-built F-86F Sabre fighters were preparing to fly an air combat training mission. The Mitsubishi fighters were a Japanese version of the famous North American jet fighters, and one of the primary aircraft in the Japanese Air Force's inventory. It was, however, a fairly basic machine, having been developed in the late 1940s, although the Japanese variant had improved high-speed agility, but it lacked a radar system to detect other aircraft. Flying the fighters were a young sergeant, who was still a trainee pilot with only 21 hours on the Sabre, and in the other machine his instructor and leader, a captain. The pair of F-86 fighters were starting to maneuver over the northern end of Honshu Island in a training area about 5 miles from the airway J-11L. Whilst twisting and turning, the leader inadvertently flew out of the training airspace and, with his wingman, crossed the airway. Realizing his error, the captain turned back with the aim of re-entering the training area, but now had to transit the airway once again. Whilst doing so, he caught sight of Flight 58, the ANA 727, and realized that there was a conflict. The sergeant hadn't seen the aircraft since he was watching his leader, but his instructor called over the radio for him to break away from the airliner. Back at Los Angeles, Flight 706 was on climb-out passing 12,000 feet and had been handed over to Los Angeles Air Route Traffic Control Center. Center advised them to head 040 degrees until they picked up the Daggett VOR beacon and then head directly towards it. The flight was under instrument flight rules and on radar guidance from the center. The Phantom, however, was operating under visual flight rules, and they had deviated from their route to avoid the heavy air traffic in the Los Angeles area, as well as being forced to climb as the weather deteriorated. The pilot climbed his mighty Phantom in full afterburner, and they very soon reached 15,500 feet at a speed of 420 knots. Flight 706 had also reached 15,500 feet and been given 2 radar traffic advisories concerning other aircraft in their vicinity. But crucially, despite there being 2 development controllers and 2 supervising controllers observing the scopes, nobody saw a primary return from the F-4 fighter. Of course, had the Phantom's transponder been serviceable, the primary radar return would have been clearly enhanced by the transponder equipment. Visibility from the Phantom's cockpit is limited, and in order to visually check all the airspace around them, pilots regularly carry out belly checks to see what's beneath them. This was often achieved by a simple wing drop, but today the pilot chose to roll his aircraft through a full 360 degrees. After this, his backseater was heads down, looking at the radar in its mapping mode, since the air-to-air mode was useless to him. But about a minute and 20 seconds later, he caught sight of a DC-9 in his peripheral vision. He shouted a warning to his pilot, but before he'd even finished, he felt the F-4 attempt to roll out of the way of the airliner. The Phantom struck the DC-9 just forward of the beam on the left-hand side. Its tail section ripped through the forward fuselage of the airliner, parting the cockpit from the rest of the body, which was seen to cartwheel through the air before plunging downwards. The F-4's tail parted company with the rest of the aircraft, and the Phantom began to tumble through the air in a cloud of debris. The Rio, the radar intercept officer in the back, waited about 5 seconds whilst observing numerous warning lights illuminating the cockpit. Then he ejected from the fighter. A successful escape followed, and he parachuted down to the ground without injury. Out of the 51 passengers and crew involved in the collision, he would be the sole survivor. His pilot had also attempted to eject, but the Phantom ejector seats were not equipped to burst through the aircraft's thick canopy. Instead, the canopy was designed to be unlocked by one of 2 systems and then fall or be lifted away by the airflow. Once gone, a wire on the canopy pulled an interrupter block away that allowed the seat to safely fire. There had been other cases when the front canopy had failed to jettison after the aft canopy was jettisoned first, probably due to aerodynamic suck. The modifications to correct this occurrence by incorporating ballistic thrusters to the canopy were in the process of being installed and would have been fitted to 458 only a month later. Over Japan, the Sabre banked left to avoid the collision, but it was already too late, and the sergeant's left wing struck the 727's left tailplane, severely damaging it. Now missing his wing, the trainee pilot's fighter entered a fierce spin to the left which prevented him from ejecting. In desperation, he jettisoned his canopy, unbuckled his seat straps, and manually bailed out of the crippled aircraft. Now free, he deployed his parachute, landing safely, whilst his F-86 plunged into a nearby rice paddy field. Out of control, Flight 58 had entered a steep dive from 26,000 feet, and the aircraft disintegrated in midair. At the time, the ANA 727 crash was the world's deadliest civil aviation disaster, killing all 162 passengers and crew on board. The aftermath of the Japanese accident was quite disturbing. The Director General of the Defense Agency, now known as the Ministry of Defense, and General Yasuhiro Ueda, the Chief of the Air Staff, resigned to take responsibility for the incident. Both of the Sabre pilots were tried in court, accused of involuntary manslaughter. Whilst the sergeant was initially sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in prison, he was eventually acquitted due to his inexperience. His instructor, on the other hand, was found guilty of criminally negligent manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in prison, in addition to being discharged from the Air Force. The findings of the NTSB into the Marine Phantom versus the DC-9 collision indicated that it occurred due to the failure of both crews to see and avoid each other. In doing so, they also highlighted the difficulty in visually acquiring other aircraft due to a number of factors, but primarily the rate of closure, which gave the pilots only a marginal capability to detect, assess, and avoid the collision. Other causal factors included the co-mingling of IFR and VFR traffic in an area of limited radar coverage. They commented that the Phantom crew could have avoided the collision had they requested a radar advisory service, particularly since they lacked a serviceable transponder. The NTSB report highlighted the difficulties in visually avoiding other aircraft. Flight 706 and the Marine F4 had approached each other at around 1,000 feet per second, 300 meters per second, similar to the muzzle velocity of a .45 caliber bullet. The aircraft were theoretically visible to each other for 35 seconds before the collision. Real-world conditions would reduce that time, such as the cleanliness of windshields, the location of window frames, atmospheric light scatter, other tasks within the cockpit, alertness, the lack of contrast against the background, the lack of relative motion when on a collision path, and empty field myopia, to name a few. This form of myopia, or short-sightedness, occurs when staring into a clear sky. Unable to find something to focus on, the eye's focal length shortens until something does come into focus, usually the windshield only a few feet in front. In order to visually detect a distant aircraft, the eye must remain focused at infinity, something it is reluctant to do. Combined, all these factors reduce the 35 seconds to a realistic 10 to 20 seconds. But even had the other aircraft been sighted, that might not have been long enough to avoid the collision. After sighting, the target must be assessed as a collision threat, which, due to its small size, takes around 3 seconds. 2 seconds are required to assess the need for avoidance and how to accomplish it. A further 3 seconds are required for control inputs and the aircraft's response. All of this cuts down the likelihood of a successful miss. An early detection required one of the pilots to put the target aircraft within their fovea centralis, the small area of the eye's retina that can detect fine detail. This little pit of cones is responsible for sharp vision, and the rest of the retina provides our peripheral vision. It's only a couple of millimeters, perhaps the 1/16th of an inch across, and can be represented by the size of a fist held at arm's length. The peripheral is good at detecting movement, but an aircraft on a collision path has no relative movement, so it must be found by scanning our foveal vision across it. When the target is horribly close, it starts to blossom in size and our periphery will detect it, but by then it's likely to be too late. The board also recommended recording equipment to be installed at all FAA ATC radar displays and that all ATC conversations at control positions should be recorded. They advised that climber descent corridors should extend from the terminal control areas to the base of the air routes to protect IFR traffic transiting between the two. In addition, they suggested that better coordination exists between traffic and improvement of terminal area charts. They also wanted an exploration of the feasibility of collision avoidance assistance as an aid to the see and be seen concept. Looking back, we can see that these and several other suggestions have indeed been implemented following this accident. The NTSB also released a report summarizing the findings of a study of mid-air collisions, such as the two in this tale, which led to the US military agreeing to cut down the number of VFR flights and operate many more under IFR rules, which required military aircraft to file flight plans and obey civilian air traffic controllers. The Airline Pilots Association and the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization issued a joint statement asking the FAA for a series of safety regulations that included stricter adherence to the 250 knots below 10,000 foot limitation, as well as for aircraft operating under VFR. Other demands included the installation of transponders in all aircraft to amplify aircraft's presence on radar screens and the re-evaluation of visual flight rules due to the increased complexity, congestion, and speed of modern air travel. In the aftermath of these and other similar accidents and incidents, the FAA did a study of the year 1968 and discovered that a quarter of the 2,230 near-miss encounters had involved military aircraft. In addition, an NTSB study in 1971 reported that 204 out of the 396 U.S. jet airliner fatalities since 1967 had occurred in mid-air collisions. Shockingly, jet airliners were, on average, involved in at least one near miss a day, with Los Angeles and New York being particularly high-risk areas. These were all lessons hard learned at the time, but it was a wake-up call to aviation regulators around the world. Changes were going to happen, but it took much longer than was ideal. However, the systems and techniques that we now employ daily do a good job of keeping us apart and safe.
That they do. Wow, another great plane tale, Captain Nick.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And to think these accidents were more than 50 years ago, and they were saying right back then, we need a system like TCAS. They didn't know it was going to be TCAS, did they? But, you know, it's taken a while, but,
Yep.
you know, now we have. Mind you, how long's TCAS been around? 20 years, I'm guessing?
Probably more
Yeah.
than that.
But that and ADS-B, which is more applicable to GA aircraft, in fact, everybody, just enhances our air picture whenever we're flying. So we're much more aware of aircraft around us and can handle the sort of closure rates because we know where to look.
Yeah,
but it also emphasizes, to the need for a proper visual scan from everybody. You know, you see the aircraft flying around, newspapers in the window, everyone ignoring the view outside. And you think to yourself, well, it's not the most brilliant thing to do in the world.
No,
no,
it's not.
You really do, well, I do, and I suspect a lot do, take for granted what information that TCAS displays give us as professional airline pilots and professional bizjet pilots, et cetera. And when you realize it is when you get into an airplane and the TCAS system is inoperative, and you go, how are we going to see anything? No.
Yeah, that's right. All of a sudden life becomes a bit more worrisome.
Yeah.
I had not heard of either of these accidents, honestly, but I do remember and recall that the PSA 727 over San Diego and one that occurred just a couple of miles from where I grew up in California. I think it was Aeromexico DC-9 crash in Cerritos, California. Those were the two that I think that finally just pushed the legislation forward and made TCAS happen. Greg Peterson says, looks like TCAS has been around since about 1981.
Oh, there you go. That's a long time.
Well, I don't remember.
It probably wasn't completely.
Yeah, I don't think it was
in play.
implemented by all
Yeah.
the airlines, because I remember flying at Delta in the 727, and I think for the first few years I remember it being installed, or maybe the first couple of years. I don't know. Oh, Greg, by the way, your former employer. I'm wearing my special big ass fans shirt. Just a little
Indeed,
there.
yeah.
You know, something interesting though. One of the slides had the flight path of that DC-9, and the way it was going. They don't do that anymore now out of LAX. You either go up the coast to Santa Barbara before you can, or you go past Point Magoo before you come back inland, or you go down around Long Beach before you go back east. You don't cut across those mountains anymore. And I have to wonder if this accident played a factor in them redrawing the airspace there.
I don't know, but if they'd given me that departure in a 340, I might not have cleared the mountains.
No. Wasn't there some Asian airline a couple years ago that we covered that they got a vector like this and they about smacked the mountain because they weren't given instructions to climb?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's a worry. Yeah, indeed.
Boy.
But in the military, in the US military, Jeff, you would have remembered doing transits to your play area under IFR conditions. Yep. Yeah, exactly right. And that was another big thing that stuck in my mind, because we very rarely went IFR in the Royal Air Force, but this had become now a procedure in the US military. And I remember most guys saying, oh, yeah, we fly on the flight plan, go out to our play area, and that's when we can start maneuvering. Whereas we didn't have those restrictions.
Yeah, that's in fact, Columbus, Mississippi is where I went through undergraduate pilot training, and weather there is not like Arizona, clear and a million every day. And from the very first sorties that you're flying, you're still learning how to fly a jet. You're flying radials and DMEs and arcs to your practice areas. So you get to become a pretty proficient instrument pilot when you're out of Columbus, Mississippi.
I don't know, maybe if it's changed since you were there, Jeff, but is that where they train all of the Air Force ATC staff?
Not sure where they do that.
Okay, I've been told it was there because
Do they have a kindergarten there?
It's got a preschool probably. On more than one occasion, going into Golden Triangle, that's between Starkville and Columbus there, I've been given some very strange instructions. Like,
you want to say what?
It's a visual day. It's VFR. We're just coming down, and then we're like 10 miles from the field. And instead of cleared for a visual to a runway, we're cleared for the overhead break to the runway. We're just like unable.
Oh no, Stephen. All right.
Yeah,
we'll go.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, that's
sure.
good fun.
They told me I had to do it.
So long as you can pull 4G in your airplane, that'll be fine.
I don't think the 200 was capable of doing such things.
You wouldn't want to do much more than 2.5. Neil wants to know about my play area. Well, what? Neil, that's kind of a personal thing. Yeah, my play area I keep with me everywhere I go.
Very glad to hear
it. Are you though? Stephen, are you having to go, or are you going to hang around?
Are we going to do this one about the American guy in Phoenix? Is this what this next one says?
Let's see. Yeah, we could do that if you'd like.
Yeah, I want to stick around for that because I got a comment about it.
Okay. So this is Greg Peterson sent this to us. He used to be our biggest ass fan, but now he doesn't work for that company. But I am wearing the logo shirt. Yeah, I got it. Thanks. And he sent. Oh, you know what? I don't think I set up I don't think I set this. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, cool.
Thanks,
Right
Liz.
there.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Greg sent us this video. He says, "Hello, crew. I hope everyone is doing well." Sending this on 9 February 2024, so it may be too late to make today's recording. I think, yeah, it was too late for last week's recording. But here's a story about a pilot who got kind of testy because ATC called him out on his radio readbacks. I have a feeling I know what you all think, but I thought it would make for a good discussion since you all have addressed these types of communications issues in the past. The article writer tries to show the pilot some grace, but it's still no excuse for using incorrect phraseology. These kinds of lapses in procedure are what get the Funyuns rolling, and they start lining up for a less than favorable outcome in the end. And he's referring to an article from gatechecked.com. And anyway, he also sent us a little bit of other information in his feedback, but we're going to start off by playing this incident that to which he's referring. Here we go. From Bass Aviation.
Finish approach, good evening, American 1479, radio.
American 1479, Beach approach, back 25 left.
25 left.
American 1479, 26 available tonight if you like.
We will take 26.
American 1479, verify that's you.
That is American 1479, sorry, we will take 26.
1479, expect 26, fly present heading, maintain 5,000.
Present heading 5,000, expect 26.
1479, I think you failed the call sign again, fly present heading, maintain 5,000.
All right, American 1479, present heading 5,000, we'll expect 26.
Thank you. I'll get it.
1479, Skyrbus 10 o'clock, 14 miles, advising you get in sight, lower in just a minute.
All right, it's in sight, American 1479.
American 1479, turn left, heading 290, intercept the 26 localizer, maintain 4,000.
290 on the heading, maintain 4,000, intercept 26 localizer, American 1479.
American 1479, cleared visual approach, runway 26.
Clear for the visual approach, American 1479.
American 1479, cleared visual approach, runway 26.
We've got a communication problem. You're hearing this radio clear because I'm saying what I need to say, but something's not happening.
American 1479, you said cleared the approach. I need the runway assignment, which is runway 26, not 25 left or 25 right. You're cleared visual approach, runway 26, and you're not reading it back correctly.
Clear for the visual approach to runway 26, American 1479.
1479, if you need a phone number, you can call in and we can talk about the tapes, but you misread the last 3 transmissions without a call sign and without a runway assignment. 1479, do you need a phone number?
I'm not going to waste my time.
1479, contact tower 118.7.
1187, American 1479. Phoenix Tower, American 1479, visual runway 26.
1479, Phoenix Tower, runway 26, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 26, American 1479.
You okay? You seem very hostile. Skywest 3158, turn left, taxi Bravo, Charlie 11 to November, remain this frequency.
Bravo, Charlie, 11 to November, this frequency, Skywest 3158.
You seem nice and kind.
Ground United
278, any chance for a 26 departure tonight? United 278, Phoenix ground. Yeah, there is, but you might get a delay up there. You will not get a delay for 25 right.
Yeah, we'll take 26 and we'll wait for it. United 278, thank you so much.
Okay, you just remind me whenever you push, and I'll get you up there.
Yeah, we're pushing now, United 278.
Okay, United 278, roger. Intentional aircraft, unauthorized laser illumination event, 9 miles northeast of Sky Harbor at 4,000 feet, green in color. American 1479, turn left at Bravo 6, taxi Charlie 6, Charlie to India, remain this frequency.
All right, left Bravo, Charlie 6, or excuse me, Charlie 6, Charlie to India with you, American 1479.
1479, thank you. I think I know where you're frustrated. I have a possible pilot deviation. Advise you contact Phoenix Approach on 602 306.
8309.
All right, 602 306.
8309.
American 1479.
You got it, American 1479. You're on Bravo, so you can taxi Bravo Sierra Charlie to India now.
All right, give that to us again for American 1479.
1479, Bravo Sierra Charlie to point India. Remain this frequency.
All right, Bravo, Sierra, Charlie, India with you, American 1479.
Ground United 278 with 10, you're ready for taxi.
9278, finish ground, runway 25 right, runway 26, taxi Charlie 8 Bravo.
All right, Charlie 8, Bravo, United 278.
I told you you'd have to remind me. I forget I'm married all the time.
Sorry.
Oh,
Man's got jokes.
yeah. Let's see. That deserves a. Okay. So, where to start? Well, Stephen, you wanted us to cover this because you had something to say, so please say it.
Yeah. So, like, after this came out, I was flying like the next day, and we were coming through New York and Washington, and they were very, like, getting very particular with people about doing exactly what this controller's asking to do. Need a readback with your call sign and the instruction. And it wasn't just for like runway crossing or runway taking off from. It was climbing, descending, and everything. And I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of a lot of things that have happened over the last year. People missing calls and getting calls wrong. And I think that brings in a good point. And I think the behavior of the pilot and the controllers is something that we all need to probably talk about, is to be professional.
Yeah.
I think we don't mind getting made fun of a little bit or getting called out, but you need to be able to move past it. And I think this American pilot wasn't able to move past it because he thought he was in the right, and then talks to the tower guy, and the tower guy is just egging it on. And I will say that there are certain centers in the airspace here that are very keen to egg stuff on or to entice you to react to what they're saying. And we really need to like look past that and stop it, because it's going to end up getting somebody hurt at some point.
Yeah. I think initially and I'm all for being nice and casual on that kind of thing, but there are times when
I'm very casual.
Yeah, but there are times when it's important to read back certain parts of instructions and that kind of thing. And I mean, when I was thinking about, we cleared for the approach, I can't tell you how many times, even in Atlanta, which I believe has some of the best controllers in the world, you're coming in and we're doing simultaneous, sometimes 3 simultaneous parallel approaches in Atlanta. And yes, I'm talking to the controller that is giving me vectors for runway 8 left. He's not doing any vectors or clearances for any of the other runways. But I can't tell you how many times that they said cleared, intercept the localizer, cleared for the approach. And I'm going, okay. And I'd always read back, cleared to intercept the 8 left local. I always made it a point to say, not as much of a point as this guy did, like, pausing a second between each number or anything like that. But I tried to make, like, I understand that you're only controlling this runway, but I think it's still important that we actually use the localizer to the runway, because that's an important thing, the runway that you're going to. And again, it's not always, but there were times when that kind of bugged me. I'm thinking, well, you should say, not that I said, well, you need to write down my cell phone number and we need to have a discussion or anything like that. But, it's just like, and I kind of learned, read back all holding, all runway holdback, and what's the term they use in the 8 as well?
Hold short.
hold short instructions,
and
runway
runway
hold short
numbers or
instructions.
something.
And then I also learned in the Air Force headings, altitudes, and altimeter settings. But you go through and you look through some of the documentation, and it really doesn't require a lot, but you have to at least acknowledge with your call sign. That is definitely something you have to do. And this guy started right off the bat by not including his call sign. Now, he could make the argument, perhaps, he was the only one on the frequency at the time. It sounded like he wasn't very busy, and you could kind of recognize his voice. We all knew who that was, but still, the guy's being a stickler. Okay, take the little slap on the hand and slap on the wrist, and don't screw it up from this point on. But he just kept doing it over and over again, probably did not on purpose, and then he just started getting irritated. And then I think that the next controller, the tower controller, I think he made it a magnitude worse.
Yes,
Because you sound like you're a little upset. Oh, okay, I see. And it's like, okay, you're just like you're really kind of just
egging it on,
turning the knob, or fanning the flames, or adding fuel to the fire, or something. You're just being a jerk now. And the other thing I wanted to say is that a possible pilot deviation. Really? I don't think that anywhere it says that if you're not making a proper readback,
it's
that
possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
You're going to have a conversation about it, and you're going to be wrong, but you're going to have a conversation about it.
Right. Yeah. So that, I mean, not everybody was a little bit wrong here, but it could have just been completely avoided if the guy had been a little bit better with his standard radio terminology to begin with.
Absolutely.
And that we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
That's exactly right. So anyway, Nick, you're muted.
No, I was just saying I was perfect. I've actually been giving all my feedback for about 10 minutes now, and you haven't heard of it.
You're wondering why we're not making any.
Yeah, I thought, well, you're just ignoring me. It is very interesting, isn't it? Because the controller was really being very helpful at the beginning. The guy was allocated a runway and asked him if he wanted a different runway. Yeah, oh yeah, that'd be great, please. Oh, fantastic. Well, I'll give it to you then, no probs. So they're on a really good kind of, buddy, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. But then don't forget, the controller is legally obliged to check the readbacks, and he's under the hammer. He will be hauled over the coals if there's an incident and his radio transmissions are found to be in error, and particularly if he gave an instruction that wasn't read back properly and misinterpreted by a different aircraft. That would be a major sin. And he really, he might be able to tell from the voice, but not every radio transmission is clear. And, another aircraft might step in, mishearing the call. So there are lots of things that can go wrong on the stupid radios. So I'm initially very much with the controller's point of view. The pilot is required to acknowledge the runway, in particular, and definitely put his call sign, append his call sign to his transmissions to stop other people grabbing that transmission and acknowledging it in error. And it's the controller's job to make sure that the right aeroplane has received the right instructions. So a lot of sympathy for the controller. The pilot, now 1479 or whatever the call sign was, that's the way everybody is supposed to say it in the United States, yeah?
Yes.
I think it's even written in the manuals that this
yes,
is.
It is.
So why the guy then compounded his error by sounding out individual numbers? Because you're definitely not supposed to say it that way.
Oh, you mean like you can't say 147? I don't know if that's written anywhere. That's the standard way of doing it in the U.S. But I've noticed it used to be when we went up to Canadian airspace. It seems like they 1479. I don't know if they still do that or not, but they
interesting because it was in our flight manuals for going to the States, because we don't do it that way in Europe and in the UK. But we specifically said in the States you will say your call sign this way. So we all knew to change to the American way of doing it when we came to America. Okay. So I don't, by sounding out those digits individually, the guy is obviously, ticked off, trying to upset the controller. Now, why on earth he thought that was going to work on the tower controller? It's a completely different bloke. I mean, start afresh. All right, that guy's upset you. You're going to speak to a different guy now. Shrug his shoulders and treat him like your best friend, and you'll get on fine. But why the hell he thought he should carry on this ridiculous
Well, he's probably thinking
attitude?
that it's like the 1950s and the tower controller and the approach controller are sitting right next to each other.
Well, that's another. You see, there's another fault of his own understanding of how American air traffic works.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are probably 50 miles apart. So
now I will say, I do understand the controllers need to hear clear the visual approach to runway 2 because we're switching runways now. It's not like this controller only has one runway, like my example that I talked about earlier on. He's controlling all these runways, and he's giving him an approach to a different runway now. So you need to hear the readback of the new runway because we want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Indeed. Yeah. Absolutely. But on the other hand, I thought the tower controller was laying it on thick. And, he was handing out all these completely irrelevant comments. And his own RT discipline was appalling. So whatever problems this bloke, the pilot, had, and I noticed every now and again a different voice appeared up from the aircraft. So whether that was the first officer or the captain,
that was the first officer. He probably looked over at the captain, and the captain is just getting so pissed, and he's going, "Look, hey, got it. Hey, boss,
I got the radio.
I got it. I'm flying. I know it's my leg, but I'll go ahead and do the radio too."
I found that quite hilarious. But that tower controller was really, he was being so silly. I had no time for him at all.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's how easily these things can get fired up. It's like road rage. But we in the air should be above that. I'm sorry. And in the tower, come to that.
We've all, and sadly, I have to say that there's probably a higher percentage of those kind of personalities out there that anytime they feel like somebody's telling them they've done something wrong, they don't like that. And they have that reaction where like the other person's at fault,
Yeah, well, how do you get through flight training and not absorb the fact that you've done something wrong? I don't understand.
All right, y'all. Well,
all right. Well, Stephen, thanks for hanging with us, and we're about to end this whole thing anyway, but thanks for doing almost the entire show with us today. On short
good
notice,
job.
I should
Thank you.
add. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
And it was great to hear your perspective and knowledge regarding the Bombardier product. And go get Mini-Me ready to go for the party or whatever he's going to do here. And and
grow that beard back. I liked it. It was good.
I'll see what I can do about that.
Well, I don't know if you can do that. Are you allowed to have a beard?
I'm not, and there's probably somebody else in this room that wouldn't appreciate me having one either.
Okay.
Okay.
Well.
Yeah, I understand.
You just need to get one you hook over your ears like Father Christmas.
You want to come say hey?
I think maybe we're going to see Mini-Me perhaps here.
Yep. You want to come say hey? Can you say say hey to the people? They want to see you anyway. Come here.
You mean there's people?
Okay, what's his name is not really Mini-Me. What's his name?
Say my name is Maverick. Can you wave? Can you wave?
Maverick. Hi.
Can I wave?
I can, but I'll drop the phone.
Look at that. I can't tell which one's which.
Okay.
I can say bye? You just click on the left-hand corner of his video thumbnail.
Oh, goodness. See, you see that? Oh, you're going to put the mouse and hit the buttons
like
now?
that.
Yeah. Okay.
I did it.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, bye, y'all. It was good to see y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah. He's got almost as much hair as you have.
I know.
Very
he's
impressive.
getting his 4th haircut tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Good job.
All right.
Lovely to see you, Stephen.
Take care, Stephen.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, Maverick. Oh, that's super. Great name.
Yeah, let me finish off Greg's email feedback. Let's see. I've also included a fun little picture I ran across the other day. Without any context, you might look at these engines and think one is an underwing engine and the other is an APU. But the picture is of GE Aerospace's largest and smallest commercial/business jet engines. The largest being the GE9X for use on the Boeing 777X with a rated thrust of 105,000 pounds. Max tested thrust of 134,000. Wow. With the smallest being the HF-120 used on the Honda jet with a rated thrust of 2,095 pounds. Aw, that's so cute.
That is cute, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's rather nice.
Keep up the great work, and I hope you're enjoying your retirement, Captain Jeff. I am. You too, Captain Nick, but you've had a little longer to settle into retirement life. Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't know what I'm doing. I reckon the core of that big jet, what is it? The
GE9X?
GE9X. The core of it, which does all the work, is probably that engine. It's that little engine stuck in the middle, and it just drives that huge fan at the front.
A little bit bigger. You can kind of see the core toward the back there.
Yeah, but it narrows down a bit to where the work's
right.
done.
Good point. He finally adds, I'll be sending my information for Jeff to park his RV at our house if he ever finds himself needing a place to stop while in Southwest Ohio. Yes, as always, in Thrust, we trust. Greg Peterson.
Yeah, good
formerly,
job, Greg.
An employee at Big Ass Fans in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, one more.
I want to do one more because I don't know if Bill Aronik is still with us or not, but I want to get his. So Bill, if you're still there, I told him that we were going to cover it. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Number 5.
Thanks.
Let's see. UFOs. Listen as pilots describe triangle over Canada. Wait a minute. That's not the Bermuda Triangle.
No, it's Canadian Triangle.
The Tundra Triangle. Okay. Well, let's have a listen. Okay, great. If you'll put that on stage, Liz, thank you very much. And let me hit return.
R7062, go ahead.
Yeah, is there any active military airspace just like north of Winnipeg?
No, nothing I'm aware of. You said north of Winnipeg?
Yeah.
No, not right now.
Okay. Lots of active bright lights, information 3, and they look like they're at like 500 or something, just trying to figure it out.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't heard anything. I'll check ahead with the next sector. If that could be.
Alrighty then. Thanks for checking.
She's not using her call
And you
sign.
said around around 50,000 feet, roughly. Is that
possible
correct?
pilot deviation?
Yeah, it looks like that. I mean, it's hard to say, but yeah, it keeps being like 3 to 4 really bright lights, and they kind of were in like a triangle formation, and then it looks like the little dipper for a bit, and then they disappear, and then they come back.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. I'll just make a note, but yeah, I can't think of what that might be.
Okay.
1 Golf Victor from center.
Go ahead. Golf Victor.
1 Golf Victor, this is a strange question, but are you seeing any flashing lights ahead at high altitude? We just got a report from another aircraft.
We don't see anything yet.
Okay, thank you. They reported them as north of Yankee Whiskey Gulf, which is the city off your 11 o'clock position for about 90 miles. So I guess just let me know if you see anything.
Copy that. So if we see anything, I will let you know.
Thank you.
Winnipeg, Canada 7086. 7086, go ahead.
Aircraft's 12 o'clock, same altitude. Is that one ours?
It's a flare flight.
Sorry, somebody going flare 600? Yeah, check Canada 7086. Do you guys see these lights at 12 o'clock? See something, flashing lights, around 11:30, flare 600. Yeah, forming triangles, and then flying away and coming back. Big bright light that's coming towards us, slightly above us, flare 600. More or less 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, flare 600. Take from Canada 7086. Do you have any traffic out there?
No, I had one other report 10 minutes ago from a Morningstar flight east of Regina. Reported the same thing. Her best guess was around somewhere around flight level 500, and thought it might be somewhere north of Winnipeg. So yeah, do you have a guess as to what you might think the altitude is?
Hard to tell, just because the evening, I'd say she's probably pretty accurate, but they keep forming up in a triangle, and then it's pretty odd.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the second report then, and yeah, there's no active airspace, military airspace, anything like that we're aware of. I honestly have no idea what that might be.
Oh, good.
Okay, I'm gonna. It's quite a long audio segment or clip. We'll have the link to it in the show notes, but it just goes on and on. They're talking about weird things and blinking and that kind of thing. And in the article, they talk about the possibility of it being, and more so. We're hearing more and more about these things lately, and I think it probably, I don't think it's a coincidence that the proliferation of the low Earth orbit LEO satellites out there, thousands and thousands of these things, like Starlink, are probably starting to give more and more of these illusions. And they linked to this guy did a 3D former video game programmer created a 3D simulation of the satellites Earth and Sun to back up his conclusion. This is what he thinks that they're probably seeing. And so let me share this with you. Boop, and share. And if you'll add that to the stage, Liz. And is it there? Okay.
Yep.
And so you can take this thing and kind of rotate the Earth. That's the northern U.S. and southern Canada border. And then as I'm rotating the Earth towards us here, you see that the sun, and then you see these satellites that are up there, and you can kind of see how the angle of the sun hits it at a certain way, and how that they can appear to be triangles and flashing and that kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. Again, it's just what this person thinks is happening, and I tend to agree. And Nick and I have talked about, and we're asked about this all the time. And
Yeah,
even back, a couple of decades or more, I remember seeing, especially it happened at night, usually, and or in the middle of the morning, very, very dark, stars all over the place, and then it's usually associated with something along the horizon, at least in my experience, where you see this light doing really weird motion and blinking and everything else, and then finally you realize that it's probably some kind of a planet or a satellite or something out there that's reflecting, and it's getting diffused with the atmospheric gases of Earth and all that kind of stuff. Either that, or it's a reflection in your glass, something inside your cockpit that has a little tiny little light that's reflecting off what you're looking through. That's happened to me as well, and I felt really, really stupid. But that's my take on this phenomenon.
Oh,
What
indeed.
about you?
And when you've got bright lights in a black background, and you're staring at them, your brain does really weird things. Your eye, you might think you're tracking it, and your head is stationary and nothing's moving, and all of a sudden this light starts to drift off. Well, that's just the fact that your eyes are generating an apparent movement, because there's nothing around that light source to fix its position, and they something similar to that I was talking about in my plane tale. But one of the things the doctors used to do was put us into a blacked out box, and they would generate all sorts of feelings of disorientation by turning the box, spinning the box, etc. But one thing they would start off with is they would just put off a light source, and that's the only thing you could see in the whole box, and they wouldn't move anything, and they say, which way is that light moving? And guys who go, oh, it's moving left. Is it speeding up? Yeah, it's going faster now. Tell me when it goes up. Oh, yeah, it's going up now. And it's not like the doctors were making them think this. It's just that the brain and the eyes aren't very good at giving you an absolute position of what they're looking at when there's no reference around them and they're looking into a dark sky. And it was just to illustrate. And we were all sitting outside listening to the intercom and giggling at our idiot friends, only to find out that the same thing happened to us when we climbed in the box.
That's funny. It's good entertainment.
Yeah,
Pass the
indeed.
popcorn and beer.
Yes, quite.
All right, it is time to wrap it up. Thank you, Ms. Liz. Oh, boy. Wow. Great show. Really nice having Stephen Ivey on with us today. And,
It was fun. I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah, and we need to reenact that picture that we were presenting earlier.
Definitely.
The three of us at a bar somewhere enjoying a nice glass or two of ale.
Yes, we did that a few times in Atlanta, didn't we? That was good.
Yes, we have. Yes, and we expect to do it even more into the future. And so we always like to point you to our website, airlinepilotguide.com. Again, you know the drill. It's all kinds of good stuff there. And you should check it
naked
out.
women.
Well, yes, of course. You'd have to have the special password for that one. And
That's the After Dark.
But and if you have the special
APG After
password,
Dark.
you can actually see pictures of Jeff's play area as well. Okay, let's continue on. Email addresses. Let's throw some email addresses up there. rv@airlinepilotguide.com. That's if you want to add some data to Jeff's Mooch docking database. And also, if you're interested in having a meetup sometime, like maybe in the Atlanta area on the 24th of February or the 9th of March, please use that email address. And then in the subject line, if you'll help us out by putting what it is exactly that you're writing in about, that helps us kind of filter all the messages. And feedback at airlinepilotguy.com is the way you send feedback to us. And there you go. All right. We're also on social media, the social medias. Captain Nick.
If you like Facebook and you don't mind being inundated with adverts, then search Airline Pilot Guy,
Not
all
me.
one word. Yeah, good for you. Or possibly you could go to X, previously known, aka Twitter, at APG Crew is our handle there, and very similar on the Instas, on the Instagrams, where I try and remember to post the artwork. I was a bit late last time, so apologies for that. APG Crew, all one word again. And of course, we appear on YouTube.
Here we
that
are.
Wonderful platform, which doesn't have any adverts at all. I lie like a cheap Changi watch. And that's youtube.com/Airline Pilot Guy.
I don't get adverts on YouTube. But
Hey, you probably
have,
pay
YouTube
a
Premium.
subscription.
I do. And man, it's worth every penny. Let me tell you. In fact,
I'm not
occasionally I'll
convinced.
forget, I'll like get on a website or whatever and then go to a YouTube link and it doesn't notice that I'm logged in or because I'm not. And all of a sudden I see all these horrible ads. I'm thinking, how can any
they're
of you
terrible.
out there stand
Some of the
that?
last 20 seconds.
I don't
mean,
I'm not.
I haven't
not doing
got
it.
20 seconds of my life I can waste. I'm about to die. I need to use every second.
If I'm going to spend money on anything, I'm going to spend it on something where I don't have to see the ads. Hillel, I don't know where Hillel. Oh, wait.
Oh, we see climbed out of the artwork now.
I think so. Yeah. Hillel, tell us about Slack.
Yeah,
Tell us about
there
Slack, man.
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
All right. And looks like you got something on your shoulder from that pile of poop that was in that cover art. Ugh, don't get too close to me. Okay, come
Yeah,
here.
poo. Ooh.
Ugh, tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and plain tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks a lot, Hillel.
Fire in the hole!
Oh,
Oh, good
thanks for the
Lord.
warning.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Liz, thank you so much. She reappears.
Yeah, great job, Liz.
Yeah,
Ooh, I'm
we've
back.
been listening to her the entire time.
You are
She's
indeed.
been with us the entire time, and we do appreciate that. And thanks for all the work you do, Liz. And
hard work.
Let's see, what else? Was there anything else we wanted to talk about?
I
before
think
we
you
wrapped
covered
it up?
pretty much everything.
I
But,
know. Steve has disappeared without uploading his recording. So you need to get on.
That's okay. I
onto
think I got
Stephen.
it on the primary
Oh.
recording method. So
it was great having him on.
Yeah,
It was.
Yeah.
And thanks to those who are in our live chat room, or what we call our live audience.
Is there anyone left? Oh, Neil Lamwan's there. He was late arriving. Late
he
on
was.
parade, Neil.
It was
go
noted.
to the defaulters room.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and tell you to, well, no, we're going to say, I didn't know how to say that really well at all. So let me just say.
Start again.
And it's time now to tell you, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Talons, Douglas.
Tell you bye-bye.
See you next time.
One of these times I have to explain what talons, Douglas, means.
Yeah.
Every now and again, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right, yes.
Turn off your recorder there, Jeffrey.
Yes, ma'am. Turn off
Good
the
job.
recorder.
All right.
So Nick,
any suggestions?
I was going to say, you're okay. Oh, I've got a couple of suggestions.
Please.
APG Bafflegab.
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 How do you spell that?
BAFFLEGAB. Bafflegab. That was thanks to
Okay.
Bill.
Okay.
I'm going to have to look that up. What the heck does that mean?
Jeff cracks the case. You know how Jeff was doing his own investigation there in that
the
thing?
runway
the diversion thing, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
The APG community needs trauma counseling. And I think that's very true.
It is. It is true.
Trauma.
Okay, Bafflegab means unclear, wordy jargon. Gobbledygook. Oh, now I've heard of gobbledygook.
And then we have probes for truth. We were doing a lot of probing there, so I thought there was something around probing you might want to do. Probing for truth.
Probing thing.
Oh, I don't know if I can.
Yeah, that's hard to. Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
know.
just that it goes into us. I don't know.
An area that we don't want to go into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Did we want to talk about sewage showering? Sewage showers?
That was
Sewage
that was where
showers.
the probing came from. That
Yeah.
sewage article.
Well, we had poop pyramids, so now we've got a sewage shower. You know, like what?
It's kind of the common theme here on.
We do.
It is actually. I've done more pictures of people sitting. Do you remember the brick built short house?
Yes, and the captain
that-
the captain's seat where he's sitting on the toilet.
There, that was Nick Macho. His first appearance in a title. He was sitting on the toilet, and we've had a few more. And we had one not long ago. Actually, you remember the single pilot operations? How do you go to the loo?
Oh,
we had a captain on the toilet.
We've got more here. The stool in the back, which is the ninth seat, the whole ninth seat thing.
The stool in the back.
And
you
then-
gotta
and then
use
Bill-
your toilet paper to get rid of the stool in the back.
And then, and then of course, Bill's got Jeff's play area, but I don't think we want to go there. I don't really think.
Why
Well,
not?
no, he can play with it on his own. I think.
That's
I wish
right. That's
somebody would
that's a
go
bit
there.
private, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think you got something to work with there, Nick?
Well, I certainly have. I quite like sewage showers. That's good. Yeah. The only problem I have with this, because I try and use this AI, and as soon as you put something like that in, it goes, "Oh, you're contravening the I don't know,
Guidelines or
workplace
something?
Guidelines, yes. I don't know. Oh, come on.
Come on, loosen
Yeah.
up there. guys.
Did you see Greg's contribution here? The APG shit room.
But we have that every week. That's every week.
That's standard.
That's nothing new.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, we want something novel.
No, exactly.
Golden shower firefighting hour. Oh, I think we're going to avoid golden showers. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Gold Coast is in the east side of Australia, not near Perth.
Not anymore.
No.
Where's the Brown Coast?
Wrong.
The Gold Coast on the east side and the Brown Coast.
Yeah, we've got Brisbane and we've got the Golden Coast on the west side.
Excellent. All right.
All right. Well, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ludger. Thank you for your nice compliment. He says
Everybody-
we're not completely useless.
Not yet.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah,
No,
he
made a nice compliment.
A nice Valentine.
I was only joking.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll see you
Yeah.
next week sometime.
Cheers, folks. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. It's happening, but it's slow.